All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another group up call, and boy, this is a really exciting one. I did promise you that it would be worth the wait, and yep, we got a star-studded lineup now of support players that you could any of the best that you could ask for. So, welcome to the great support debate. For those of you who don't know what this is going to be about, there's a command now, GSD exclamation mark. So that'll give you a little text breakdown. But from my end, we've got 5 players here who will each be representing 1 to 2 supports from the 7 that exist in Overwatch, and we're gonna discuss what state they're in the game right now. Do they deserve a nerf, a buff to stay where they are? Do they need a rework? Essentially, we're gonna fight it out verbally. Obviously, only social distancing prevents us from a boxing match like some YouTubers might do. But yeah, so we will be discussing what to do with these supports. So from bottom left to top right, we have Skiesti representing Mercy. Say hello to the people, Skiesti.
Hi.
We have Niandra to the left of me, who will be representing Mercy and Moira.
Hey there.
All right, and then I will be representing the leftovers, which is Lucio and Brig, so don't hate me for representing the demon. On the right of me, we have Cupcake, who'll be representing Bap and Anna.
Hello, everybody.
And in the bottom right, last but not least, is Shiro, who will be representing Zenyatta. So the only person who was kind enough to join me on camera, so that I don't look all alone.
I got you. Hi.
Nice, thank you. Okay, guys. So yeah, I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. And just as a quick start before we get into the discussion, guys, if you type any of these content creators' names in with an exclamation mark before it, you will get a link to all their socials. So make sure before, after, during, you guys check out all their stuff, all their links, because they're all awesome, and they deserve your support. So with that out the way, support. See what I did there? With that out the way, I'm gonna start things off with Lucio. So the point of this will be to just give a brief assessment of what you think the support hero is, what state they're in. So from my perspective, Lucio, one of the core heroes of Overwatch, you could argue, one of the absolute iconic heroes when you think about the support line of Overwatch, and has been the dominant support arguably of the history of Overwatch, kind of the most in meta from start beta till now. But recently Lucio's kind of fallen out of favor, at least at the highest levels of Overwatch. Pretty much his fate has risen and fallen with Brawl, aka Rushdown comps, and kind of with Reinhardt is where his fate tends to lie. When Reinhardt is good, he tends to be doing very good, because obviously the speed boost is so key to those Reinhardt based comps. But as now Double Shield has arisen, his place has kind of been lost. And the argument probably is that he doesn't have the healing power anymore. I mean, as we've seen with a lot of the new supports that have come in, most of them have kind of, I hate to use the dreaded word, power crept. They've kind of power crept how much healing is in the game. So with AoE heals like Moira and Bap, Lucio just can't really compete with his AoE aura. Plus, it's not really why you want him. You kind of want him for the speed boost, and if you're only spamming out the heal boost, then you're kind of wasting your time as Lucio. So yeah, unfortunately, he's not in the best spot right now. But does it matter, guys? And now I'll open up the question to you. Does it matter that he's not the meta right now, considering he's been meta for so long? Do you think Lucio is... Does he need to be meta right now, or is he fine where he is?
I think he's fine. I think he's good. Like, I think that speed is still like really valuable, and even though he doesn't have like as much healing, and there is like a huge like damage power creep, honestly, Lucio has been meta for so long, and speed is like so powerful that I think he'll definitely make a comeback, even if he's not meta right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I mean, he's a character that's always been quite dominant, but never really felt bad when he has been. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's like all I have to say.
No, sorry. I thought you were going to follow up. This is the difficulty of not having cams. But what I'll do is I'll try and point out who's talking for anyone on stream, so that if you don't familiar their voices, you'll have a better idea of who's talking. But yeah, I think that's fair. I think he has been dominant. But since my job is to argue for Lucio, I'm going to say, hey, is there an argument to be made that Lucio is actually really key to Overwatch? I mean, my other main is Reinhardt, and I always argue that. I mean, I wouldn't mind if Reinhardt was out of meta, but generally metas are more fun when Ryan is meta, and less fun when, for example, Orisa Sigma are meta. Is Lucio in that same category? Maybe he also kind of really enables a certain style of Overwatch, which is quite fun and dynamic. And with the speed boost options, you kind of get a more fast pace Overwatch. So Is that a case that any of you are buying?
I mean, I kind of feel like Lucio is fine even if he isn't meta, and I think you've got to be real careful with buffing characters that aren't bad, that are just not meta at the moment, because that is kind of how you get like power creep and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I think Frog can just sit on the bench for like a couple of weeks and we're generally fine.
I also think that like especially in pro play, like with hero bans, he's still gonna see a lot of time, right? Because like heroes like Arisa and Sigma are going to get banned, and he's still gonna be good. Like there's still gonna be times where like Ryan Diva or Ryan Zarya is gonna be run, and you're gonna want to Lucio with that. You're gonna want to be able to speed your Ryan in and get all that good juicy damage, right? And you just can't get that from any other character. So while maybe he's not gonna be as great as he will be in comp and competitive play, which is confirmed for no more hero bans, he's still going to see a lot of time in pro play. And there's even right now in the time of like no hero bans, like double shield and stuff, there's still comps that you can run, which I some teams are doing, where they play like Lucio Brig or they'll play like Lucio Moira and just run it down, right? So he's still seeing playtime. It's just not every game, right? So I think he's in a really, really good spot. Right.
Agreed.
That's fair.
I definitely still think that he has a place in, like, even if he's not meta, he definitely still has a place in different types of play with certain characters. I can definitely agree with that.
As long as he keeps having a monopoly on speed boost, I think he'll never be fully garbage. And, you know, we know that there's going to be no more heroes until Overwatch 2, so I guess Lucio kind of, you know, will be all right for a little while at least.
Yeah. This is one thing that is kind of a larger macro thing that I was wondering if we bring up at some point, but Blizzard usually, in the past, Blizzard often said we don't like tweaking numbers. We like, you know, making more clever changes, for lack of a better term. You know, in the past when heroes were problematic, for example, like a Symmetra or a Torb, rather than just say, oh, let's buff their damage or this, that, the other, they've tried to go back and rework. But recently we've seen a lot of actual number tweaking, and probably that's a symptom of the fact that Overwatch 2 is coming and they can't be bothered. No offense, Blizzard. But they probably just like, well, what's the point of reworking a hero when we're going to drop like 5 new ones and, you know, overhaul the game anyways?
Well, I think it's also because, like, I'm pretty sure in the past Blizzard has said that they didn't like reworking heroes that much. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they said that at some point. So they tried to do it like as little as they possibly need to.
Yeah, I mean, they're generally quite stubborn, but the point I was going to make is that it is interesting that you mentioned there that he has a monopoly on speed boost, and that is one of the larger elements I think we'll have to see, obviously, as Overwatch 2 drops, but I'm all for more overlap in hero abilities, so new heroes which have similar kind of abilities, so that we don't have this, because that's when the problems arrive, in my opinion, is that it becomes very clear cut who is the pick and who is not the pick, basically from meta to meta, because it's like, well, if you have speed boost, then you're the only person, and if that's deemed valuable at the time, you're the only person who's ever pickable. If like Amp Matrix or Immortality Field, as we'll get to, Cupcake, is the pick, then all of a sudden you're the only person who's viable. And if you have those overlaps, and you have more of a case for, okay, well, if speed boost, we need a speed in this meta, well, I can go for the one healer who has speed boost but also provides this, or I can go for the one healer that has speed boost and provides this, and then you have...
So what you're saying, SCB, is that we need to give on a speed boost. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, the old lady has hobbled for too long. Give her speed boost.
I'm sure Blizzard's in like a bit of an awkward position with it, because I do think overlapping hero abilities is a good idea. For example, you know, as long as they don't stack, I think multiple characters with speed boost is fine. But I guess it's not as exciting to see stuff reused. For example, you know how Echo has sticky bombs that is similar to Tracer's ult. I know like a few people complain about that and stuff. So I guess maybe that throws a wrench in things a little bit in terms of like overlapping.
Yeah,
like they can't like win either way, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely less exciting, I guess, but could have benefits to overlapping them.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of the benefit of Overwatch 2, is if you dump more than one hero at a time, you can get away with that sort of thing a lot better. You know, it's like you're not going to be that fussy if one character has speed, if you're also getting like unique characters alongside them.
Yeah.
Just my personal opinion, I've always thought that, you know, dumping more than one hero at a time or releasing more than one hero at a time would be kind of a good idea for Overwatch. I was always kind of sad that they never did.
Yeah, I agree, because when it's just one hero, the scrutiny is very heavy on that one hero, and it all becomes about like, let's rinse this hero until we figure out. Whereas I think one of the fun elements of Overwatch is actually a hero. So this is a slight tangent, but I hate new heroes dropping who are overpowered as opposed to underpowered, or not underpowered, but certainly not dominant heroes who are going to go straight into the meta. And then later, like a couple months later, people actually figure out, oh, actually, this is where this hero is good. So I'm thinking like Ana, for example, on release everybody was like, this is garbage. Like, why would I play this hero who's like takes all this aim and do this when I could just pick Mercy, Zen, or Lucio? And it was only like after a few nerf buffs and, months later that people were like, oh shit, this grandma is real good. So and even like Orisa was the same. I mean, obviously they had to buff her a lot. I prefer that style because I think, I mean, if a hero is new and they come in and they already are dominant, then that's a problem in my opinion, because it's like, how have we gone from years of experience with a certain hero being invalidated by 2 weeks with a new hero? Like, that's busted, so that's a slight tangent, but I mean, with the idea of supports and new supports coming in, I think it would be better if we got multiple supports. And obviously we got debated with Echo not being a support.
Yeah.
Don't remind me.
That one hit hard.
Good.
I was so excited.
Jeff really effing us up there. But okay, so Lucio, we kind of seems like everybody has kind of aired their opinions. We'll now head over. I think makes sense to jump over to Mercy now because we have two representatives for the Mercy cause.
Yeah.
So would either of the Mercy representatives like to chime in?
I think we both basically have like the same sort of opinion.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So if you want to start, I can like piggyback off it.
All right. Okay. I'll start with mine then.
Go for it.
Okay. So, opener. The amount of times that I've been asked to swap off this hero is just insane. Like, in my experience playing Mercy, basically no one wants her on their team, except for in like the most rare situations where she's actually slightly beneficial.
Maybe
like if something, yeah, exactly. And like if something's going wrong, like you're gonna be blamed. It doesn't matter how you're doing. Like they're gonna point their fingers at you. Like it's just gonna happen. So since her healing was reduced from 50 HPS to 60 like so long ago now, and then recently buffed back up to 55, she's kind of fallen from her position as a main healer and is in like this really awkward state.
That's kind of like the main thing with it, really. Is it's kind of why you see people both say that Mercy is in like the best state she's ever been, and also say that she's trash. Like the core of Mercy, overall, she's like a really balanced hero. She's just a bad main healer, and characters without roles just traditionally struggle in Overwatch. Like Symmetra is my favorite example. If you wanna continue, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so recently she had that 55 HPS, and like, that small healing buff has been nice in like really critical moments of like keeping people up. But if you want a main healer, like you're not gonna pick Mercy, you're gonna pick like Ana, Moira, or Bat because they're just better for it.
Yeah, so, it's like, oh, sorry, you go on.
No, you carry on. Don't want to interrupt.
Well, when Mercy had like 50 healing per second, you generally didn't run her with off healers, you ran her with main healers. And she generally felt like really good because obviously you would damage boost a lot, but the trade-off was then your team doesn't have a defensive ult. And, many ranks will struggle to play against that because the coordination just isn't quite there, for example. With the healing buff though, Mercy and an off healer, it's more consistent, like it's not 100% worthy. But a lot of the time, it just feels like, what's the point of trying to make Mercy work with an off healer when Moira and an off healer is going to be more consistent for less efforts? Is kind of like the way I see it.
Exactly, and I feel like if you're running Mercy with Zen or Lucio, like you're not exactly using her kit, aka mostly damage boost, like the full capabilities, or there's like not a lot of room for error because if you mess up once, like your team might be kind of screwed.
And that's not to say that, like, it can't work. Like, Mercy can definitely work with off healers. I think Mercy Zen is probably the most consistent out of the three, simply because, with damage boost in Discord, your aim is to win the fight before the lack of healing is a thing. But, yeah, it's still not, like, if you were about to defend 2 CP, for example, you probably wouldn't want to take the risk of like Mercy Lucio because, you know, in that game mode, you lose one fight, you probably lose the points. You may want to do it on like attack where you've got like leniency and stuff.
Interesting. So yeah, I'm sensing some conflicting, well, some upsetting here from the Mercy side. Before I sort of give my feedback, or we kind of get into potential changes and solutions, do either Cupcake or Shiro, are you either of you kind of disagree with that assessment or have any thoughts to add on that?
I guess one thing I want to say is before her HPS was nerfed, you have to remember that Mercy Zen was meta for a very long time.
Oh yeah, like Mercy had basically like 100%.
So I think Blizzard wants to take her away from the role of main healer, and I do think she has places within the meta and within pro play.
Yeah, definitely.
And the thing is like I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here, or I might say some things maybe you don't want to hear, but I these are my views and everything. And so okay, so Mercy like has a very low okay. Before I get into this, I want to say that this is coming from a place of love, and I have around 700 hours of
it's okay, I'm ready to hear it.
We're ready.
Okay. Brace yourselves.
Just break my heart, it's fine.
Mercy's left click ability is a very easy ability, right? She just locks on, it's easy.
Oh yeah,
right?
very consistent.
So outputting heals for her is very low skill. Skill ceiling is very, very low, right? I mean, obviously you can take into a fact that like staying alive, you're gonna output more heals, and that's skill, yada yada yada, whatever. But basically, if a Bronze Mercy and a Grandmaster Mercy are both alive at the same time and they're both left clicking, they're going to do the same amount of heals, right? That's not necessarily true for an Ana or a Bap that have to aim, but that is the case for Mercy. Now, I think her having the spot as a off healer is good in that sense because she can focus more on damage boost and kind of giving heals here and there. So her not being able to put out that 60 HPS is very good in my opinion. It puts her in a different spot as an off healer. When she is being played in a game, sorry, I'm like dying. When she's being played, it forces the team to play in a kind of different style. So we were just talking about Lucio, how speed boost, obviously he monopolizes that, right? So if you have a Lucio, your team is able to go in very fast and take very fast engages. And when you have a Mercy, it's basically the opposite, right? You force your team to play slow and play pokey, which is fine, right? There's a lot of, comps that work around that, but that's just the way that it is. So I think when we talk about Mercy, it is important to understand that she does have a place in the meta. It's just not a fast place. Mercy's strengths rely in playing flanky and playing slow. You're waiting for your DPS to take opportunities, and you're helping them with that, right? So
yeah,
well, I mean, oh, go on.
Oh, okay. So like I think I would agree with that. For the most part, I like where Mercy is right now. When people ask, oh, like what would you do to her? There's very few things that I would do. Mostly almost nothing at all because I don't mind where she is. But it is a little bit frustrating because, when you have a main healer like, say, Ana, and then you play Mercy with her, your team complains about not having a defensive ult. But then when you have a defensive ult, they complain to you about not having enough healing.
I feel like sorry.
I
feel like this kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier that Mercy, like what we've mentioned before, that Mercy is neither a main healer or an off healer.
Exactly.
She's sort of in the middle, and generally characters who lack identity struggle a little bit. Because like you mentioned that she would be good as an off healer, and I gotta say, I think Mercy's like an off healer is like kind of a cool idea. But as Skiesti said, Mercy doesn't really have a defensive ult. You can use Valkyrie defensively, but it's really not going to save you from much. And the power of Valkyrie does lie in the mass damage boost appeal. The idea of winning the fight with damage boost before, the lack of healing is like an issue. The other thing you mentioned is about how, Bronze Mercies and GM Mercies are going to heal the same amounts, which, I definitely agree with that. As someone who has done, like, a lot of VOD reviews, though, there are, like, tiny little...
I know.
There are, like, tiny little nuances, that, like, aren't the end of the world. Like obviously Anna, definitely a much difference between like a bronze Anna and a GM Anna than, you know, Mercy. But you know, there is like small stuff like beam connection. Like, I know it's not like big or anything, but just to like rep the people who I've done like VOD reviews for and stuff, there is like a very like slight difference.
Yeah, for sure.
So before I kind of talk about, so those are very interesting points. Before I kind of talk about how we can change that or what Mercy's place might be, I want to hear from Shiro, who hasn't had a chance to chime in yet. So Shiro,
I don't want to interrupt.
A lot of thoughts exchanged there. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think my opinion on Mercy would probably be very unpopular, which is why I'm reluctant to state it.
Go ahead. This is what we came for.
So I love Mercy, and I have a ton of hours on her, and you know, like Cupcake was saying, like, love her, no Mercy hate at all. But when it comes to like Mercy's position, like you guys were mentioning, like being a main healer, being an off healer, I think Mercy, I'm just gonna say it, I think she needs an overall rework. Like Mercy's, I know that's gonna be super unpopular, but I think
Bring back the
Mercy,
hashtag.
I think her position is very, very like known as being a pocket healer. And that is honestly like that's what she's good at and that's what she's supposed to do. And it's like if there's a Mercy on your team or on the enemy team and she's pocketing a DPS that's really, really good, or whoever on the enemy team or on your team is really good, and that person's carrying the game by staying alive, to me, I don't feel like that's personally fair because there's so many Smurfs in the game that I'm constantly going up against, like in Masters especially, I'm constantly going up against like Mercy's pocketing the Widow Smurf or the Ashe or the Echo or whatever. So I liked it when I started playing the game. Mercy was a main healer and I loved when Mercy was a main healer. Like that was fun. I loved Mercy Zen. I thought that was perfect. And I like the idea of Mercy's kit being more focused on being a main healer. So if that means they buff her healing and they kind of rework damage boost, maybe rework res and rework her to the point where she's not necessarily just a pocket healer and she's more of an actual main healer, that's something that I would love to see. Like, I know that's kind of asking a lot, but I just don't really like where she is in terms of like, you know, like you guys were saying, not being a main healer, not being an off healer, but kind of just being a pocket healer. Like, I want to see her as either an off healer or a main healer.
Yeah,
I think Mercy's rebuttal. Sorry, Niandra, I interrupted you.
No, I think that's like perfectly fair, to be honest. I mean, it's just, I think if Overwatch just wasn't so rigid with like its roles and sub roles and stuff, that Mercy as a pocket healer would like probably not be like an issue. But in my opinion, the game is like pretty rigid. You know, I mean, a tank definitely more than support, but support still kind of feels it a little bit, I guess. I think like one thing we haven't really touched upon is res. If we would,
So yeah, that's actually something I wanted to touch on because I think there's like an elephant in the room, which is that Mercy is kind of, she becomes a very Marmite kind of hero where it's either you love her and you play her a lot, or people really loathe her and they kind of just hate that she's. Not necessarily that they want her deleted in the game, but they want her certainly to kind of be at least hammered into the ground or just not be in their games, right? So I think a lot of that comes from what Shiro alluded to, and also both Niandra and Skiesti have kind of alluded to, which is the idea of Mercy as a pocket healer, but also another idea, which is of the low skill ceiling hero. Now, that in itself is a controversial statement because I know Mercy players, and I've also VOD reviewed a lot of Mercy players, and the thing about Mercy is that it becomes like kind of like trying to extract blood from stone to get more value from Mercy the higher you go, because you're having to rely on smaller and smaller exploitations to just get a little bit more value. You know, the super jump is a product of that, where you're just having to use a slight bug to get you that a little bit more value because Mercy doesn't inherently have that extra mobility to jump up like that, and that survivability can be difficult to come from. So these kind of elements I think are almost contradictory, where on the one hand we do have, she is in many ways a low skill ceiling hero because like Cupcake said, any Mercy holding down the left click is doing the same amount of healing as any other Mercy. But then at the same time, the higher you go, it becomes difficult. And res is another element of this where to get value from res, someone has to fuck up on your team. Like to get value from res, someone has to die. And compare that to a Discord orb where you're offensively doing damage, that's value all the time, and that value based on your team playing well. So again, even res as a concept, and obviously going back to 5-man res, that was like, let's bait out 6 ultimates and then I'll res everybody, was like the meta. And now it's I like, somebody dies, then I res them, then we have value, and then we go back to 6v6, right? So yeah, is it true what Shiro's saying? Does res kind of need to go? Do we need to take that out? Because at the moment it adds to that idea of, this is a hero for people who are playing poorly, for example, right? Or for people who don't play that well. Not that that's what I'm saying, I agree, I believe, but it lends to that lazy play that a lot of people hate about Mercy, and why hate gets directed at Mercy is because people see it as that hero of like, hold left click and then res when somebody's an idiot. So my thoughts. Go ahead, Mercy side.
Do you want to take? I got something. Let me get my thoughts together. Okay, basically, I don't know how up to date this is, but I remember statistics from about 3 years ago from the Overwatch League that said the team that got the first pick in a fight won the fight something like 70% of the time. And because of that, because numbers advantage is such a crucial core part of this game, I can't ultimately hate Resurrect, even though I know that it makes Mercy a real challenge to like balance, you know, like she probably has to be at least partially balanced around Resurrect because it's so powerful. But you know, it's like, again, going on to 2CP defense, it's like if you lose one person, that can often just be your team loses the fight if you're defending, because numbers advantage is so important. It's kind of like the thing.
To that point, it is a good point, and I think we also have to be clear what kind of levels we're talking about, because you know, we're going to talk about the entire length, and a lot of us will be referring to pro play, but then of course there's ladder play as well, where these things have differing value the higher or lower you go, and res is one of those things, like you said, Niandra. In pro play, the first pick is incredibly important, whereas in ladder play it is important, obviously, but I think it has, again, people are not always so on the ball.
Right?
Yeah, they're not always on the ball. They won't always go in with the first pick. You know, you can easily lose the fight afterwards. But
yeah,
I would like to say on the topic of like res and like getting picks and stuff, one of the comps that Mercy does shine in is double sniper, double shield. So thinking about that, I mean, obviously the point of a double sniper comp is to get picks, right? So then it would make sense that in pro play to, you know, play, if you're playing, you know, double sniper against double sniper, Mercy is usually played because you get that second chance and you get that second opportunity. And that's what I said, like Mercy still has a place in pro play and in things like that, but in very niche situations because of her res and because of her utility. And so I think like saying that Mercy needs to be reworked into a main healer kind of does rub me the wrong way. I would like to see her still stay as a like off support, because I believe that her damage boost, her mobility, and her res are the things that makes her skillful, right? I don't think that her healing output is a good thing to buff or try and work around because it's a low skill ability. I think that most Mercies that are good know how to like work with res, know how to damage boost and position and things like that. And it takes a lot of skill to get a res in a situation where you could, you know, potentially be. I mean,
I see. I agree with
it's situational, I think.
Yeah.
In that respect, it depends on where the res is. Like, you know, if you get help with it, that part's situational.
It's like, I agree.
You wanted to
like,
say something.
Yeah, sorry. I hate interrupting.
No. I mean, we're 5 of us here, so someone will need to interrupt periodically. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I like agree with the idea that, you know, res is definitely skillful in some situations, but I think that overall res just kind of sucks because like it allows you to make mistakes and then not be punished for it. So it's like if you were out of position, if you made a mistake and you peeked a Widowmaker and you were out of position and you know, whatever, if the enemy DPS is better and whatever, like you just make a mistake and then the Mercy just comes and like reses you, like I think it's just almost unfair because I feel like your skill for someone's like that's on the enemy team without a Mercy, I think your skill is not being rewarded and the enemy's mistakes are not being punished, if that makes sense. And I think it also still contributes to her being a pocket healer, because I've been in situations where I'm playing Zen, we have an Ana, we have like an Ashe. The enemy team has an Ashe and a Mercy. Our Ashe kills their Ashe, even without the damage boost, then the Ashe just gets res and then one shot to our Ashe. And then it's like, even if our Ashe is a better Ashe, they still have the advantage because they have the Mercy and the damage boost, and then we lose someone just because we don't have a Mercy. So it's like res is skillful, and I totally see what you're saying with like, you know, her healing being like the easiest part of her kit, but that's why I personally think she needs a rework, and there shouldn't be a res. And I think that they should just rework Mercy to have a more secure role, other than that secure role just being like pocket best DPS on team.
Well,
Maybe
then
it's not.
I think maybe what I would like to see is if they were going to like rework res, which I agree, I don't really care for the ability very much. I'm just saying like she has a place in the meta because of it. But if they were going to rework Mercy and take away res, I would like to see some other like high skill ability. Maybe like
Agreed.
I don't know, something silly like an AoE damage boost, which we haven't really seen in the game, like a 2-second AoE damage boost or something that's on like a 10-second cooldown. That'd be cool.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's why I think she just needs different abilities that maybe are a little bit more skillful and aren't just so like, you know, not punishing you for making a mistake.
But I think the point where we disagree is you want to see her more as a main healer, and I still would like to see her in that off healer spot because her main healing is so easy.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I agree with you. Honestly, it's not that I like set on her being a main healer. I'm just saying with her abilities as they are right now, I'd rather her be a main healer than like a pocket. But if they were to rework her and give her like better abilities, then I could totally see her as an off healer, and I would love that too.
Okay, lots to respond there. Mercy side. Yeah, I mean, general thoughts, and then I'll feedback again as well.
Do you want to start?
Skiesti, you haven't spoken in a while, so go ahead.
Yeah, it's mostly because I think my opinion differs a little bit, because probably unpopular, but I kind of don't think res is that big of a deal as like a lot of people make it out to be, and I know I'm, you know, probably I'm probably alone on that one.
Well, go ahead, justify your position. We're a debate here. Go ahead, justify your position. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, like, res has gone through like so many different iterations, and this is probably the most, I guess, fair iteration. It's like, okay, you can bring someone back every 30 seconds, but that's only counting if you can actually get the res off. Like a lot of mercies, like, go for certain reses, or there's too much pressure, or there's not like the opportunity for it. So I feel like a lot of reses are actually missed out on. So when you think, oh, you know, like we could have one person up every 30 seconds if they get picked, it's not like that simple, because it really depends on the situation if you can get it off, like what's happening. So to me, I feel like compared to, you know, other iterations where she could bring back multiple people in like really short amounts of time, like it's probably one of the most balanced iterations of res that we have right now.
Yeah.
And like, I guess that's why I think it's not like that bad. Oh, there was one other thing about it. Also, yeah, I don't think that, I think Blizzard has reworked and touched Mercy so many times that they don't really want to do anything with her that's really drastic. I don't think they want to rework her again. I don't think they're likely to take off res. So, you know, that kind of adds to my thinking, even though that's probably like, that's just an extra thing.
Niandra?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, you know, with like owl pick rates, you know, the team that got the first pick won the fight most of the time. And because of that, a part of me does like, I'm so conflicted because, like, you know, I don't want a team to like lose one person, the fight is just over for them.
True.
So there is that aspect of res that I do kind of like. But well, before Mercy, you know, had her healing nerf when she had 60, she could kind of do everything, right? She had mobility, survivability, utility, and had 100% pick rate to reflect that. And the problem with like changing Mercy at all in her current state is I don't think it would be difficult to go back to that state where she is mandatory due to like res, survivability, and stuff. So ultimately, although I agree with Skiesti, like I do kind of like res, if it ultimately makes Mercy very hard to balance, then I am kind of willing to get rid of it for like the greater good, I guess, is kind of the way I see it. And I don't know, I do feel like there is ways to counter res and stuff. it's just, kill someone while
Yeah.
she's resing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with all this. Oh, no, go ahead. Niandra, you have something more to add?
Oh, no, I was just gonna mention that, like, I guess it can be very punishing to, like, slow players, I guess. If you're a sniper and you're only able to get, like, one pick every 30 seconds, then res is just gonna feel, like, extremely, like, frustrating to play against, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so I was gonna say is that the interesting thing about all this is that again, there's so much of a range of what we're talking about. Because I know a lot of people, when they refer to mercy, they're thinking of like a certain type of mercy, and maybe they're thinking like the ladder bronze gold mercy, and then sometimes we're thinking like, we're talking Overwatch League and where she fits in. But yeah, I mean, there's like, that's the problem in a sense, because on the one hand you will see like mercies in gold never blue beam and like res on cooldown when 5 people are dead, and it seems like all her abilities are being wasted. And then there's like the mercies in master and GM who kind of pretty much can't climb without like a duo, right? Because or at least that's what I hear. It's like incredibly difficult to climb without having someone who you can enable. So does that go back to that idea of like her as a pocket healer, which I think everybody actually can agree on? They don't want her to be. They don't want her to be a pocket healer. So what is the solution? Cupcake mentioned like an idea of like a damage res on cooldown or damage buff on cooldown, but
I don't think it would be that difficult to make Mercy a pure off healer, and I always feel guilty speculating about this stuff because I was always so against reworking Mercy in the past. But I think what you could maybe do is lower her healing even further, and then make Valkyrie something like 6 seconds, 300 healing per second, just to put on like with Transcendence, and then make it like a pure defensive ult. And I think that could be like maybe kind of neat. So you would like heal very highly during Valkyrie, but you would have to stay alive yourself with the mobility to keep it up, while Lucio gets shields with sound barrier, Zenyatta is immune, while Mercy would like have to fly about while healing. And I don't know, a pure off healer Mercy could be kind of neat. I also think the game does kind of need more off healers, because we've only really got technically Lucio and Zen, and maybe Brig. It depends how you want to like classify her.
I guess this goes back to more of Blizzard's general balance decision, where they said that they don't really like terms like off and main, whether that's tank or healer, which is a great thing to say theoretically, but it makes life difficult when you're playing the game, and you do need
even
these
if they
terms.
don't. Yeah, I mean, even if they don't like those terms or like classifying characters under those terms, like it still happens.
Yeah,
like, it's gonna happen. And it makes it really difficult to know what character's position it is when they're like Mercy, who's kind of stuck between where she doesn't really.
I mean,
she's not in a clear role.
Yeah, I can see that too, because like I'm a flex support player, right? But then like, so obviously in pro play, there's a flex support player and a main support player, and either of those roles will play Mercy from time to time. So I guess I can kind of see that, even though in my mind she is usually played with a quote unquote main healer like Bap or Ana or Moira. But I guess I can kind of see where you guys are coming from, where she doesn't really fit either.
Yeah, I guess this is why we want those classifications, because a lot of the new heroes that have come out have been kind of hybrids or in between, and then everybody's space gets blurred, because it's like, well, if one healer is a hybrid, well, who's the other healer going to be? Like, is it a main? Is it a... And this is another issue that maybe we can discuss, is like the potential idea of healing creep. Is that has kind of healing become more and more prevalent to the point where utility is almost diminishingly valued, although we have had a recent buff to Zenyatta whose utility is kind of skyrocketed. So quick thoughts on that, and then actually we'll go to Shiro to hear the Zenyatta breakdown.
Listen, if we're talking about healing creep, I feel like we hit Moira hard. I feel like we hit that bitch.
Okay, we'll save that anger for the Moira section. Let's head over to Shiro then. Shiro, your boy Zenyatta has had a very nice buff recently, bringing him back very firmly into pro play, at least. And I think even in ladder now, I'm starting to see a lot more Zens, where previously people were like flaming anyone playing Zenyatta, and it was like, why are you picking Zen? He's just gonna die. So Zen seems pretty happy right now. Go ahead.
I mean, I wouldn't like consider him like a good pick still, because honestly, I still play Zen. I mean, I just had an account that I one-tricked Zen to 4100, and it was painful because literally almost every game I was getting flamed for playing Zen. And people literally would throw just because I wouldn't switch off Zen. But, so I think he did get the Discord buff, which is good, I guess. But I feel like he kind of like, I mean, he that's what his Discord orb did before they nerfed him because of goats. And that's the only reason that they nerfed his Discord orb in the first place. And so I feel like he needed that back already. And I think what really needs to change about him is his healing. And to touch on what you were saying about like, a healing creep or whatever, I think that is becoming a very real thing because of the damage creep that's been happening. So with that power creep happening, it's requiring more healing to the point where like, off supports, like especially Zen, who has the lowest healing out of anybody, like he's almost useless because he provides 0 healing. If you have like a good main support, like if you have a really, really good Ana playing with you, then it's doable. And I love playing with a good Ana because I feel like I can just, do damage and focus on discords and whatnot. But his healing is just so non-existent that it's like at a point where you can't even play him unless you have a really, really strong main healer. So I don't even remember what the original question was, but I kind of just went off.
Well, I mean, that's perfect. Just where do you think Zen is at? Okay, one, I guess you just kind of spelled out your thoughts, but as a conclusion statement, then I guess others can feedback. Like you kind of sounds like you feel like he could maybe do with a bit more as a result of the healing creep and damage creep. You feel like maybe he needs a bit more.
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. He's just like, okay, his lack of mobility is made up with his damage. And I think that is how it's been for a long time. And that's okay. I'm fine with having nobility. I've learned how to play Zen without having any kind of movement abilities. But his main problem is not being able to keep it up with the other supports. Most of the time, if the enemy team has like a Mercy and an Ana and Moira, whatever it is with 2 main supports, they're going to win a majority of the time because they just have so much more healing than you that your main healer is going to be sweating their ass off trying to keep you up. Sorry, can I curse? Is that okay?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Children leave.
But yeah, like they're just gonna have to be sweating the entire game trying to keep up your team because you're gonna throw a harmony on someone and it's gonna be basically non-existent. So basically, to wrap it up, Zen still not in a good spot. Needs a healing buff at the very least, and yeah, I still get flamed pretty much every game for playing Zen. So
okay. So any immediate thoughts from any of the panel here?
Hello, I play a lot of Zenyatta. I would actually argue that Zenyatta right now is currently meta, and in a lot of pro play, he is kind of like a must pick. So yeah, you're right. His healing output is very low, but right now, as the meta stands, it is Orisa Sig, Ashe Echo, Zen Bap, right? So you got double shield, you've got Echo that's usually taking off angles, and you've got Zen Bap for your heals, which, Bap is a main healer, and I don't expect Zen to be a main healer. I think we're all on that same page, right? Echo having a Zen orb is enough for her to like basically flank like 180 degrees in the back line and assassinate people and come back. That's Echo's whole style, right? And I think Zen enables that like a lot. And when you have an Echo that's constantly flanking, you're not losing any frontline damage by having a Zen instead of, let's say, a Mercy, because Zen is slinging orbs at the enemy team full force. He is a DPS character and he's fucking rolling. So Zen is very, very strong right now, and he is played like I have a 4-hour scrim block later tonight, and I guarantee at least 3 hours and 30 minutes of that is going to be on Zenyatta.
Well, I think it depends if you're talking about like pro play versus just like ladder play. So like, maybe in like Overwatch League, maybe in like, these really high top 500 games, then it is definitely viable to play Zen Bap, because I definitely get games all the time where we play Zen Bap and it's okay. But I mostly play in low GM games where Mercy and Ashe are just like dominating the ladder right now. So, like in higher rank games, like in Overwatch League and stuff like that, like I definitely get it because the shield break value is really, really good with Bap and Zen. And with that being like such a strong meta, and the people that are playing Baptiste are like, obviously good enough main healers to be able to like keep up with having to babysit the Zen and his low healing, then it's definitely okay. And I've definitely played games like that where I'm like, okay, yeah, this is good. But I think that like in ladder play and probably like in lower ranks, things that are probably below GM or top 500 in general, he's not nearly as strong as other supports like Mercy, who paired up with an Ashe is just like broken. So it kind of depends on where you're talking about, you know?
I guess I have that like disconnect where the only thing, like, I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but the only thing that really matters to me in terms of balancing is like pro play and like really high levels, because I think if you go off balancing in any other way, a character is just going to get too strong and it's just going to dominate, right? So
so what we're kind of addressing here is a couple of things. One, the idea of top-down balance, which is what Cupcake is suggesting, that you essentially balance for the pro level and then everything like kind of falls underneath, and some things, some heroes get left by the wayside, I suppose, is the idea here, that someone like Zenyatta might get left by the wayside because he requires a certain level of understanding to be unlocked. Pro teams need to have a certain level of pocketing him to keep him alive, to be the powerful hero that he can be. But of course that doesn't happen in your random ladder games. So he ends up just getting shit on, basically.
Right.
And then the other thing we're kind of addressing, is again the idea of output. And I think that's actually very key to support heroes more than any other hero, is the idea of ease of output. Because I think what Shiro's alluding to is the ease of output of something like a Mercy pocketing an Ashe, where it's like, just attach yourself to one hero and you've got a like insane combo. And that can be quite oppressive in ranked, where again the counters are harder to do, coordination is lower, so one strong character has a much bigger impact in a ladder game than it would in pro play, where people might be able to better address it. So yeah, I mean, balancing is tough, man. Blizzard, shout out to you. it is a tough tightrope to walk. But Niandra, Skiesti, any thoughts on what was been discussed?
I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind is, as someone said in chat, the category is called, support instead of healer. So I think it is okay for a character to have low healing and utility like elsewhere. Apart from that though, like Zen's kind of scary to me. I don't really have any opinions. The only one I can really think of, have you guys seen his hitbox? Like it's ridiculously it is stupidly like big. Like it's way too big for what his model is. And I think just making it a bit smaller could just help out his survivability, because like my DPS is like trash, but like if I see a Zen on the enemy team, like I often feel like I can bully him simply because his hitbox is so generous that it allows plebs like me to succeed. So yeah, I think just modifying that a little bit. I mean, to be fair, there's like a lot of hitboxes in Overwatch that could probably do with some fine tuning. I know Kaki made a video on it, but like Zen was definitely just the worst.
Yeah, hello, I play Reinhardt. I play Reinhardt, and every week something goes wrong. But yeah, I mean, Zen is thick. What can you do? Skiesti, any thoughts?
I mean, I'm not much of a Zen player. I probably have like under an hour on Zen in my entire life because God, I hate him so much. Personally, I'm just not a good Zen. So I don't have a lot to add other than my experience mostly playing as Mercy. It's kind of difficult to play with him compared to like, you used to be able to play Zen Mercy without a hitch, and now it's just kind of like, oh, you're playing Mercy, you've got a Zen on your team, and it's like, you have to babysit him, and you're also trying to babysit your tanks and pocket your DPS, and you're just kind of like, you're kind of stuck. So
yeah. So to sum up the kind of positions here is kind of the idea that, from what Cupcake is saying, basically not every hero needs to be ladder ready, even if they're pro ready. And in a way that basically means that if you are, I mean, it's tough because on ladder you theoretically want everybody to be playing anything they want, but what we're saying is that the highest levels is Zen. It's not worth your time basically, and people who are playing Zen are screwed. Well, or they're at a disadvantage basically. Like many heroes that you want to one trick, if you one trick them, you're accepting being at a disadvantage. Are we saying that that's Zen basically?
Well, it seems like from what Cupcake was talking about, Zen seems to be in a pretty fine position in terms of like pro play and the highest levels. If I understood that correctly.
He's good in pro play, but like I feel like he's only good in pro play because double shield is like a thing right now, and his shield break is good. Like obviously he does a lot of damage, but I guess just like I tend to see pros as playing like a completely different game. Obviously, I'm not like 4,500 or anything. You know, I'm peak like 41, but like I try to main Zen every single season, and I feel like while I'm a pretty good Zen player and I feel better at Zen than like any other hero, I feel like it's hard to climb on him because I can play Anna or, you know, Moira even, or just any other support and just do way better just because they're better as a hero. Like every time I play Anna, I'm like, oh, I'm doing so much more on Anna, but it's not that I'm better at Anna because I'll review my VODs on Anna and I'm like, oh, I suck. But it's just that Anna has such a stronger kit that you can just do so much more and you can contribute so much more. And like I can get those picks on Zen, but it doesn't really matter when our whole team's on fire and everyone dies because we don't have the healing. So it's like I agree with Cupcake. Like, you know, he is good in pro play, but he does kind of still suck on ladder sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit. I think that what you're saying is very true. Like Zen is good in double shield, and I think double shield is meta, right? That's why he's good in pro play. But I
Right.
also think that if your team isn't running double shield in comp, you probably shouldn't play him. And I think that's probably where the struggles come from, because double shield, like Zen can do like a fuck ton. Like if there's a Sigma on an off angle, which is something that happens quite frequently, Sigma and will take a DPS and they'll off angle together. Zen can pressure them by himself behind a shield, like lones them. He can poke out a Sig and make him fuck off, right? So
Right.
I think that playing Zen in comp is still very good if your team understands, you know, what's meta and wants to play what's meta. However, Zen becomes not very good in comp when your team is playing whatever the fuck they want in the traditional comp style of let's play Orisa Ball or Hog Zarya or something crazy. I will say that in games like that, I lock the Ana and I vibe and go next usually. Because you're right, Ana does do a lot more in that situation. Zen benefits heavily from having the double shield and being able to do a lot of damage. He can't really do that without a front line. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can definitely say that. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I just feel like I wish he was better. I wish he was viable. Actually, I'll just say that I wish he was viable if double shields was not the comp. Like if they're running Ryan Zarya or something, I wish he was just viable. Like I'm not saying he has to be like good to the point where he's like, oh, they have Zen. Oh my god, like you know he's so good. Like I just want him to like be able to keep up with the other healers if they're not running double shield. You know what I mean? Like I don't want him to be like OP or anything. I just want him to be able to keep up and not be like a throw.
I guess what Shiro's getting at is that Zen is basically the worst independent pick, right? He needs many other picks to go with him before he can be viable, compared to a Moira where you can kind of pick her everywhere and she'll kind of pan out, or you know an Ana even to some extent, and that makes it difficult as a player just existing in Overwatch trying to play Zen.
Before double shields was the thing, he was bad. Like, I mean, he was good a while ago, like a long time ago. Like, you know, Mercy Zen was like the last time I can remember him being good, but I've only been playing since like season 9. But and this is low GM, you know, like I know Cupcake's pretty high SR, so maybe it's different for her, but you know, like since then, since double shields has been a thing, that's the only time I've been able to pick him and people aren't like super angry at me. Oh, goats, true. My bad. I just saw that in chat. Yeah, goats. Okay, he was good in goats. I miss goats though.
Dempsey in chat actually brought up what I was going to talk about. So another thing too is Zen Brig Dive is played religiously because Zen's Discord is so good, right? So a lot of my scrim time, yes, I'm playing double shield, but on maps like Legion Gardens or I can't think. I don't know, a Busan map, probably like Drum or whatever. I forget what that one's called. People will play, Sanctuary. People will play Zenbrig Dive, and the whole point of that is just get your Discord and do as much fucking damage as you can, as quick as you can, faster than the other team. So, like, yeah, I agree. Like, that's still pro play, but he is seen in other metas, and I do think he is like still very, very good. So.
I think that kind of is the same. We're reaching the same conclusion, I think, though, because it's again, Dive is a very tough comp to play in ladder, right? It's like it's not a comp you can be like, guys, all right, I'm picking Zen, let's go Dive. I'm gonna Discord, you're gonna dive the guy I call out. Like that's just not gonna happen. So maybe
I don't play for like.
I'll ask for specific maybe changes from Shiro that maybe she suggests for what Zen might benefit from. But is the other potential change a much larger one about encouraging people to play more as a stack? in Overwatch? Does that help? Because if let's say everybody's playing in an external matchmaker and they're six stacking more, well, now you can play heroes like Zen who otherwise don't thrive, but in a correct comp do much better. Is that a better solution or a solution?
It's tricky because like, like I don't play for a team, so I don't scrim or anything like that. So all I do is play ladder. But I like the idea of like stacking and GM comp, honestly, and I think this should be a thing overall for like every rank. I think you should be able to have a group SR and a solo SR. Like I think that there's a lot of times where, and I know people are always like calling for MMR resets and for not being able to stack to like GM, which is like something that people do a lot. So I think that it would just be beneficial to like have a group SR. So it's like if I were to six stack and like GM, maybe my SR would be like this. It'd be like ridiculous because you're playing with a team. But then you could also have like your solo SR, which shows your ability to work with your random teammates and not like with a specific team that you coordinate with. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
that
I mean,
a lot too.
I think a lot of people have called for a team SR and some sort of system. But okay, so concluding thoughts on Zen, we have given the old monk here quite the good thorough rinsing. Any sort of final thoughts? Is it Shiro? I know you said he kind of needs buff. So any specific ideas that you want to leave with chat?
I mean, I don't think he needs like insane buffs or anything. I would just like him to have like maybe an extra 5 healing per second, like something small at first, like because I don't want him to be like broken, in pro play and really high rank gameplay, but I want him to be able to be viable in ladder play and in lower ranks other than just like pro play. So just a small healing buff. That's all I ask.
Fair.
I mean, would would Zen maybe benefit more from the DPS being nerfed rather than him being healed?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Potentially.
Like, yeah, if we were to nerf overall damage,
Yeah.
I'm good. I just like, I don't know if they're ever gonna do that, but in the state that they are, like with them, putting a Moira buff on experimental, which I saw it didn't go through, but the idea that they were toying with that idea and them like buffing Mercy's healing and stuff like that, it's like just give Zen a little something or just nerf all damage.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and maybe we'll have a larger discussion on that kind of stuff at the end. But for now, let's maybe head over to Cupcake, who's been giving us good old strong opinions, which we appreciate. So, Cupcake, do you have a preference you want to talk about first, Bap or Anna?
Oh, I don't care. Whatever you want to send my way. Also, I don't mean to like be so bullheaded. I'm a little thick-headed sometimes.
No, bullheaded is good. Bullheaded is good. We're here to discuss, so it's good to have ideas to bounce off. Okay, well, I mean, since we're talking about Zen getting a buff, Ana has recently gotten a nerf, the tiniest of nerfs. And how has it affected your experience with Ana, and how do you feel she kind of stands right now?
So I think I've been kind of like advocating a lot for how the heroes are playing in like pro play. So I think I'm gonna stick a little bit to that because that's basically where a lot of my experience is. Ana right now in pro play is kind of like a niche pick. I think in comp she's still definitely played a lot, but in pro play right now where there's double shield and everything, she's not really played. Why play Ana when you can play Bap and have immortality and AoE healing? Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting.
That's honestly kind of incredible to hear, because I swear before like a healing nerf, wasn't Anna's pick rate in like ladder like basically 100%? Like obviously I'm just going off like overbuff statistics that I can remember, which I'm like super reflective, but I remember it being really high. So that's like very surprising to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's only because Ana is like so much more fun than like the other main heroes, personally.
Very true.
Yeah.
I think it isn't to do in isolation of the -5 healing. I don't think the pros are like 5 healing. I'm out of here. I think it was like in combination with the Zen buffs that kind of made it that double shield. I think the pros are always on a knife edge where it's like if one comp suddenly becomes like 2% more viable, they're like shit 100% of the time. Let's go. And I think that the slight Zen buffs were like enough to tilt the favor back in double shield, where people were like, wait, why would we spend all our time doing all that brawl nonsense when we could just have these guys have the 2 tankiest tanks and an immortality field on cooldown and a transcendence and discord and BAP damage from mass distance.
Yeah. I guess you could argue that I mean Ana is still played in 1 or 2 comps. Sometimes she'll be swapped out for a Zen instead, just because of that high damage. But the comps that she's kind of seen in is like slow dive, which I mentioned earlier that Zen Brig is played on a very, very fast dive where you get a Discord target and then your whole team goes in and then you rinse and repeat. Do that over and over and over until the fight is won, right? Anna is played in a similar style with Brig, and the point is basically have your Anna sat in the back line and your team kind of baits the other team to engage, and then you win off having more heals than the Zen Brig would have, right? So you're playing more you're playing more like counter divey, you're playing more peely, and you're playing to like win off your nano. That's like the only time that she's really, really seen. And I would even say that Zen Brig most of the time would beat that comp. So right now in pro play, she's super, super niche. Yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? Because you
Yeah,
think Anna
definitely.
would be really, really good with her nade and her sleep and everything, but she just doesn't have the damage that other supports do. So
That I feel like Anna's also really bad with double shield.
Yeah, that's true. It's super hard to get value out of her nade when a Sigma can just like 1 second cooldown throw a shield in your face, and you're like, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine, that's fair.
It's hard to hit like antis and sleeps with like 2 shields in the way in my experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, Anna's in an interesting case because she's kind of like the community's favorite healer, if I can say that. I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
in terms
pretty
of,
much.
like,
Yeah.
I think in terms of
Yep.
like hatred, she probably has the least, or at least
Yeah.
everyone's kind of happy
Yep.
with Anna's meta. But at the same time, yeah, she's kind of fallen out right now. But then maybe we don't see that pro play hasn't trickled down necessarily. I think there is still a lot of Anna play in ranked, and you're probably very unlikely to get flamed for picking Anna. So I mean, we've talked pro play. Let's talk regular ladder play. I mean, you guys are I can hear kind of Skiesti nodding vehemently about
Oh, yeah.
Anna's love. So as someone who doesn't play Anna, but often might be asked to switch Anna, like how switch to Anna? How do you feel about kind of her state in the game?
So, okay, so surprisingly enough, I'm not the one that's usually asked to swap off to Ana because we usually have an Ana on our team already. So I usually get asked to pair, Lucio or Zen or something like that. Anything that's not Mercy. But anyway, I think that maybe from my perspective, and I think some other ladder players' perspective, is that anti-nade is really strong because in ladder you're usually not running like there's people that run double shield, but not all the time because ladder people play what they want, and so basically Ana gets off a pretty good anti. The enemy team capitalizes on it, and your team is pretty much SOL. So, like, what are you gonna do to that when you can't heal or you can't help your teammates?
Mm.
It's kind of like, as long as your team goes in on it, like, that's a one fight.
So you feel like that ability is a little bit too strong and kind of gives her a bit too much potential.
Yeah.
I guess I would say my argument for that was you're completely right. If a good anti-nade is hit, it's basically a one fight for the other team if they engage correctly. That is correct. I would say though that the reason why it is okay for that ability to stay in the game and be as strong as it is because it is so difficult for an Ana to hit a big nade on the enemy team. And for the team to capitalize off of that, they only have, I don't know how long anti-nade lasts, like 5 seconds, 6 seconds, something like that. They have a small window of time where they have to get in and capitalize off this ability. And then if they don't, it's another 5, 6 seconds before an Ana.
4 second. It lasts for 4 seconds.
4 second debuff.
Okay. Yeah, so you have 4 seconds to capitalize off this high skill ability, right? So not only does your Ana have to land a nade, which is extremely difficult with shields and DM and all different sorts of things that could block it. And then you have to worry maybe Zarya Bubble purges it, so on and so forth. Then your team has to capitalize off of it. And I think that sort of trade-off for having such a strong ability is, the skill required to take it full advantage of it.
I think, I don't know, maybe this might just be my experience, or for some reason this ends up happening a lot in my games because it's so often that an Ana hits an anti and that's just like that's it. Like the best thing that I would want to see for it, I think, is just for it to be like reduced healing to a significant amount. But anti, I mean, it really hurts, and it's crazy that like I play at a GM top 500 level, and it's crazy how often this is happening in my games that Anas hit antis, and like that's just it.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I
that's just
think
my
this is
experience.
yeah. Again, it's always hard. We're having a tough task here because there's such a wide range of things this can apply to. Because in pro play, for example, it is very difficult to land a fat anti-nade. And yet in some aspects of ladder it can be very easy to land, and again it depends where you are on the ladder. Sometimes you might be in like the plat area and your Anas can't even hit the first left click, let alone like a big nade. And at the same time sometimes an Ana hits a big nade and nobody capitalized on it and it's just wasted. So yeah, I mean the experience of it can be wildly different. My 2 cents on it would be that I think it's a great ability. I think I like abilities like that kind of have different.
Yeah,
It's like a unique ability, and it forces a different like style and play from you. What I would say is that I also the other aspect I like of it is that it allows the support to carry much more easily, which is I think actually something that I should get a lot of amens from around here, which is that supports don't always get the chance to carry quite as easily as other roles can. I think probably support's probably the hardest to carry with outright, because I think like DPS, we know if you're a good DPS and you pop off, you're gonna get kills. And I think tanks as well, like the difference between a good tank and a bad tank is really obvious. But supports can sometimes struggle. Like you can feel like you're doing a lot and nothing is happening because you're relying on your team to do a lot of the follow-ups for you. And anti-nade is kind of what separates that, I think, a lot. Anti-nade is one of those abilities where it's like, it speaks for itself. It's like you drop an anti and people should die. Like it's pretty straightforward. So maybe if there is a problem, and I think there is a potential problem with how impactful it can be disproportionately, then perhaps the solution, rather than nerfing it, is to introduce more characters who can cleanse it. I think is a better way of going about it.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's what I was gonna say. Like anti-nade is
that's
something I kind of
another
go back and
option.
forth on. Like
I
I kind
kind
of
of
see
like
both sides. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Skiesti in the way that like I think anti-nade is incredibly powerful, and even coming from someone who plays like a lot of Ana, I definitely see like how strong anti could be, and I know that it is definitely a hard ability to hit like in pro play, but honestly, like from my experience, like I don't. And maybe this is because like dude, I'm probably the lowest ranked person here. I peaked 41, so I've hit a lot of antis, and I don't really consider myself like that good at Ana, but I know that there's been a lot of times where I hit an anti, and even if it's not like a huge nade on like the whole team, I'll hit it on just like a Reinhardt and he dies. Like that's it. So it's like it definitely is super strong ability, and I kind of agree with her in the way that I wouldn't mind seeing it actually become an ability that reduces the amount of healing that you can receive rather than just completely, completely not being able to heal them. So I kind of see where she's coming from in that regard, because it is incredibly strong, and it's probably the strongest ability in the game that isn't an ultimate IMO.
Immortality field, remember that exists. But yeah,
true, immortality field does exist, but I mean,
I was just gonna say you've tugged on my heartstrings there, because you channeled in a Ryan main on me, and now the Ryan main is flashing back to all the anti-nades I've eaten and all the times I've died as a consequence. So maybe I'm on your side now. I don't know. I'm not sure anymore. Okay. Any thoughts on Ana then before we kind of consider moving on? I mean, seems like some people are. I mean, largely we're fine with her. I think just a couple of complaints about the anti-nade, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I think just in general, like more anti-CC stuff would probably be pretty healthy for Overwatch at the moment. I know if you do make like a cleanse ability, it is essentially just a Zarya bubble that's watered down. But I do feel like CC and various effects are so common at this point that you could probably justify having one without it being like super niche. For example, if you remember from like the experimental cards, Zarya had that like bubble for everyone rather than just one person. And I don't know, maybe something like that. There's still like a lot of characters you could give like anti-CC to, in my opinion.
Or just like some other option for a cleanse. So like, if you're not, say you're not running a Zarya, like, then I guess your options are more limited because, like, what are you gonna do to it? Another cleanse would be nice, like another option, so that you didn't have to run the Zarya.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, new characters with overlapping abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
I really do like the idea of sort of cleanse. I think that's something that is kind of missing from the game right now. And I remember the old rework Mercy. Give her a cleanse. Ha 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 ha. I mean, whatever. But I do think it is something that's missing from the game that I would like to see. And I do think that it would be a good, counter to Anna's nade. However, I still stand by it is a high skill ability, and I do think that if there's a cleanse put into the game, I wouldn't like to see it as a press E to cleanse this person. I would like to see something a little bit more skillful, like maybe like an immortality where you have to put it down beforehand, and then that way you have to like try and like play around the other person and get in their head and things like that. I would like to see more skill based support abilities. That would be really nice.
What about Transcendence canceling anti?
Oh, controversial. The Zen main. This is why we had a Zen main in here. Counter the counter by changing it.
Yeah. Anti's the only like pure counter to nade besides maybe shielding it off. So
just boop them off the map. Come on.
Does Transcendence need a counter? I'll just playing devil's advocate for Shiro because she's getting ganged up on right now.
No.
Does it need?
Please, God, no.
So yeah, does it need a counter as an ultimate? Consider that too. Compare it to Immortality Field, which has no counter other than to kill it, basically, and is an ability on cooldown.
I mean, keep in mind, Sound Barrier has EMP removing the shield, so that technically has like an ultimate that counters an ultimate, while Trend is like an ultimate countered by an ability.
Although again, to counterpoint, the Sound Barrier EMP duel is not quite that straightforward though, where you can kind of work it both ways, where you can wait for the EMP and then be afterwards, which is what we saw a lot in like Sombra Goats, whereas there's nothing. Once Zenyatta's entering the Transcendence and he gets naded, that's it. Like nothing's happening. Like no God is gonna help him then.
That is like you just wasted your ult, and it's not that hard to like if you get grabbed and your Ryan has no shield, which is like typically what happens because he's shielding the grab, right? And then his shield goes down and the Anna's like yeet, and then the whole enemy is purple and you're like, okay, GG.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I guess in my head to like counter that, I'm thinking like I don't know, I'm thinking like Ryan Diva, like okay, I have to what they're doing, like Sigma ult or grab or whatever. And I'm looking my diva in the eye, I'm grabbing her by the face, and I'm saying, after our resources are down, they're gonna nade. Eat the nade. I'm staring her in the eye. Please don't let us die.
What if you don't have a diva?
Well, I mean,
I guess that's GG.
The thing is, like, to negate that though, you have to rely on someone else, and I think we can all agree that, in ladder, at least, there are a lot of people who aren't going to catch that. They aren't going to react to that. Even if you give them, like, crazy amounts of warning that it's going to happen, there's a chance that they're still not going to do it or they're going to mess up. Like, it requires a lot of, like, trust. And, if your teammate messes up, then, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And it also requires you to like play around the fact that it's like, oh, okay, well, they have Rein Zarya, we have Rein Zarya. Well, you need to go diva because in case we have a grav and you don't eat it, they're gonna nade, and then you have to eat that nade, otherwise we're all fucked. So it's like, I mean, I'm not totally like advocating for trans to like get rid of anti-nade, but like I'm clearly biased, so I don't know if it's good or not.
It was worth a shot. It was worth a shot.
Just wanted other opinions on it.
Sure. Fair enough. Well, speaking of immortality fields, though, actually, we kind of we talked to Cupcake a little bit. Actually, I want to head over to Niandra for a little bit. Because I think there's been a lot of references in chat to Moira, so let's talk Moira, because most of that has been hatred. So Niandra, floor's over to you.
Oh fuck, I agree to this. Okay, so the way I see Moira, right, is I kind of feel like she's the comfort / junk food of supports, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I don't want to, or I'm just not good enough to go through the hardship of healing aiming, and I want a cheat day. So I just kind of go Moira, because like with Moira, I don't have to put in so much effort to get value out of her. It's kind of like the thing.
So true.
I don't know. It's weird because like I don't think she's overpowered, but like I do think she's one-dimensional. And even if she's not problematic, I'm not entirely sure if she's like just healthy for the game. I guess like the thing is, she trades utility for like numbers, and if you leave out Phage, you can only do two things, amazing healing and mediocre damage. And I also feel like that makes her really hard to like nerf and touch because if you just change numbers, you can pretty much leave her in not a great position. It's like you nerf her damage that we saw in the experimental card, she just becomes a heal bot. If you nerf her healing, she's just kind of mediocre. So, I mean, personally, I kind of want to see like a Moira rework. Just me personally.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with Niandra a lot, and the way that she said that it's like a cheat day to junk food. I actually love that.
It's like
so
I know I gotta like eat my vegetables, but I just want to eat a chocolate cake.
Yeah,
like a few months back, we had hero bans, and I'm not an Ana player, and they made me realize, shit, I need to learn Ana. Like I need Ana in my pool. And then sometimes, I just she's hard, so it's just I'm gonna pick Moira, I'm gonna hold mouse away, and I'm gonna fade out some ults, and
yeah. That's so true. I've always said to my stream and to my chat, I'm like, if I one-tricked Moira, I would be so easily top 500. And not to take away from like the skill that Moira does have, but it's so true. Because if I'm having like a game on Ana where I'm struggling, I'm just like, kind of having a hard time. I'm like, I go Moira and I do so much more.
Yeah.
Same with Zen. Like it's just such an easy hero to get value out of and to keep your team up.
So
I just agree.
So yeah, but what Niandra kind of alluded to there was saying that if you kind of nerf her healing, she's mediocre. I'd like to put forward that that's okay. I'm okay with a mediocre Moira because I think, and not because I hate her personally or anything. And Moira means I don't hate you, but I think one of the biggest mistakes that Blizzard makes is trying to make, and they've kind of talked about this in the past, and they've acknowledged that they do it, is that they try to make every hero viable, and not every hero should be viable. It's just not how the mechanics of every hero works. And if you want a healer like Moira, who, as Niandra so aptly described, is the junk food of supports, if you want a hero who will give you a consistent output very easily, then she should be a mediocre output at best, right? That's I think a fair and reasonable way of looking at it. It's like, okay, well, if you want guaranteed easy healing, pick this hero. She's not gonna like be outstanding, and if you're really good and you want to spend time grinding a hero, you'll get better options elsewhere. But if you're struggling, or if maybe you're new to the game, or maybe you're not very good at like certain mechanics, and you want like a certain decent output, then pick Moira. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a hero like that being there, where she's like always B tier, for example, right? And will always give you value, whether that's in gold or whether that's in master. But does she need to give you so much value that she becomes a pick? Even though I think ubiquitously, like any support players who aren't Moira mains kind of hate playing Moira, or hate being forced to play Moira, if that's a better way of saying it. So I personally, I think she's okay if she's just mediocre, but that's my 2 cents.
She's fine.
I agree with you. I would much rather her be like mediocre, but maybe her niche be like her survivability, because I know a lot of the time when she was like meta before, it was played against like Reaper Doom, and the reason why you would play her into Doom comms and with Doom comms is, one, because she has the option to go in with the Doom, and two, she has the option to fade away from a Doom, which, I mean, listen, I have played Ana and I have landed sleeps on Dooms, and my whole team will gang up and they'll get out. Like it happens. Like Doom is just so strong, right? So her niche being her survivability and now not her burst output healing would make me so much happier. Yeah.
One thing I think is really interesting to look at is AoE healing on game release, which was what it was Soldier, Lucio's Amp and Transcendence, and AoE healing now. And now we have multiple healers that specialize in AoE healing. We've got Moira, we've got Bap, we've got Break. And on game release, we just didn't have that. Obviously, Mercy was single target and the others were low. And I don't know if that like points towards power creep, damage creep, what it does, but like I think it's worth acknowledging, like it's definitely different to what it was.
Yeah, I think chat has mentioned that a lot, where there was references to the idea that on release the sort of best healing output was Mercy at 55 healing per second, and now Moira does like 70 in an AoE range. So it's like, if anybody was like, well, there's no healing creep, well, how do you explain that to anybody? So I mean, yeah. Again, I think it's a case of Blizzard trying to do too much, and okay, I'm gonna jump in. I think there is very much like just power creep in general with heroes. Is that the problem is that every new hero tends to do a little bit more than the heroes that came before them, and I think like Moira is like a case of that where it's like she has AoE healing, she has a like easy to output damage, an ultimate that builds very quickly, and an escape, and it's like previously like heroes would have to ration that kind of stuff out. And then you have Bap now, which is basically like, oh, I have a defensive ult in a cooldown. I have a jump. I can output more damage than half the DPS roster. And I can AoE heal. And I can heal myself. And my ultimate can amplify damage. So it's like every new hero tends to do everything that every other hero did before combined. And you can take Sigma as well as an example of this as a tank who shields, has a defense matrix, has a stun, and has a grab as an ultimate. So it's like, can we not make every new hero have every ability from before? And I think that makes it very difficult for previous supports to exist, and that's where we end up getting overtuned, or we get power creep, because you have to buff Moira's healing to compete with it when a BAP comes out, or you have to buff Mercy's healing. Mercy and Zen are good examples actually, because they were fine, and then new heroes came out, and then there was too much healing, and now you need to buff them to compete with the new heroes. So that's my rant anyways. I'll let you chime in.
No, I think that's like a perfectly fair point. I don't know. I don't really know what you could do with Moira. I think tightening her aim on her grasp, like even if they aren't going to rework Moira and give her utility, which I think is kind of what I want, at the very least, I think her right click grasp hitbox should be like very tightened.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
I have your thing here, by the way.
Yeah, do you have my like clip? It's like,
so yeah, chat. We're gonna see a little clip here from that Niandra has brought some homework to the table. So below, Niandra, go ahead, talk us through it.
I mean, just my aim is just so off this Mercy, and like I just shouldn't be rewarded for this. Like it's almost kind of embarrassing to show. But like that's kind of the thing with a hitbox that generous, is that it's the mobile heroes that get punished. You know, like Genji, Mercy in this instance. But
also, look at the range on it. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like 20 meters as well.
It will follow you to hell. Guaranteed.
It really will.
So sad.
Literally,
so
I think I played Moira the other day in comp because I was vibing. I was literally slouched in my chair, maybe like having like 3 chins, and I was like contesting the echo that was bullying my team with my right click, like all the way behind us. Like I don't know. It's so broken. I would definitely like to see. I'm a huge fan of making all supports more skill based. I think like it's definitely, no one can argue like if abilities take a lot of high skill to use and have a good output, right? So I think definitely making her, more skill based would be something I would like to see. And I know we haven't touched on it yet, but her orbs bouncing around all RNG. I would like to see something where like they stick to a wall, and then people who walk by it are affected by it. That in my mind has more skill than a random orb that just kind of like bounces around. I know you can say like I've had to play a lot of Moira in scrims as well, and I know you can say like, oh, you just have to use the terrain, like bounce it up and down between the roof and the floor. And yes, I can get that, but there is still the RNG element to it, and I would like to see that removed and replaced with a skill-based element.
So
what if like?
Oh, go ahead, Shiro. Go ahead. No, Shiro, go.
Okay, what if they did like? Remember when Symmetra's beam was like it would just like lock on to people, and people like got really triggered about that, understandably. Like, what if they did a similar type of tracking mechanism to like Zarya and Symmetra? Like maybe like a sim beam.
I would love
for Moira, and maybe like less.
Yeah, I would like that a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I just think that's a better idea than just like the locking on and sucking you from across the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I want to like chime in on this point is that, and I don't think anyone would dispute this in this panel, but we also have to be careful to not always conflate skill with FPS mechanics. And although definitely. I'm not someone who's like Overwatch needs to be a MOBA or Overwatch shouldn't be an FPS. I think FPS is probably the most important skill in Overwatch if we're talking outside of like game sense. But I think it doesn't necessarily that in my mind that a skill has to involve FPS, but it should involve thought, I think, at the very least. Like, I think that's where the problem lies, is
I
that
agree with that.
something like a orb doesn't require thought. It's just like throw it out and it's gone. Or it's very easy to just execute. Something can be difficult to execute, but requires skill that is in FPS. Like, for example, like tanking is one of those things where it's like you don't really need to have any FPS ability to be a good main tank, but executing it is difficult at sometimes. Like a shatter is difficult to execute because there's so many ways it can be blocked.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at, like just taking away the RNG element of it, like putting it somewhere. Like I had mentioned before, the idea of maybe having like an orb that's stuck somewhere, and then that way high skill Moira players could see like a flank that maybe they know a DPS is trying to come through, and they could stick the orb there and kind of deny that flank. That's a skill that's game knowledge based, and also like something that's not RNG and could be very impactful. And I know like that's kind of something that does happen with high skill Moiras already, is they'll send the RNG orb through a flank and be like, okay, I got a tick, there's like someone there, there's a Genji there or something. That's something that I do frequently, and yeah, so I definitely think more of that style of like checking flanks and stuff like that is a lot more skill based.
I just have to correct you. The correct terminology is skill.
Skill orb.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I
So
just
carry
think
on.
with like that, like the orb being like stuck to the wall, I think that's like an interesting idea, but I feel like it would almost be similar to like would it go away after time? Because like I feel like it would be like similar to like a sim turret where
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you're
I
1
would
HP,
imagine.
you're gonna go get that mega, walk into the mega room, and you're dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know I would get like super tilted by that, and you know, not to say it's a bad idea, but I don't know. I feel like it's just like, oh, I'm gonna stick this here because someone's gonna come go for this mega and they're gonna die. So
of course, I'm not like a Blizzard dev, but I mean that was just something that came to mind. I don't know.
no,
if you want, sorry, if you want the orb to be something that can check for flankers, then it could just be something that gives you information. Like it could just be like a Widowmine, but it does damage. Like it doesn't, or like a Sonic, or I mean, not like a flying Sonic, but it could be similar to Sonic in how it works.
Yeah.
Or I mean, Valorant has stolen plenty from Overwatch, so if you want to steal something back from Valorant, it could be like a Cypher camera where it's just like a little camera she can check to see if like somebody is, you know, if somebody's coming. It's like, and that could be interesting because supports don't tend to have that kind of utility. They tend to usually have
that'd be interesting.
Like healing or damage based utility, whereas yeah, maybe like information based utility would be cool as well. Skiesti, do you have any? Oh yeah.
I've got an ability. So Moira, she takes her nails and she puts them on a wall, and then whoever sees them is so scared that they have to leave. That's my Moira ability.
The mark of the Moira.
Yeah.
Well, Skiesti, do you have any thoughts on Moira before we kind of bounce to the remaining two heroes?
Okay. Well, I'm a pretty passive Moira player myself. I think anyone who's seen me play Moira knows that I very much value healing over damage in most situations, just because I feel like my team somehow, for some reason, needs it more, even though you'd think that's crazy. Because there's no way they could take that much damage. But anyway, I think that the whole orb sticking to a surface and, you know, staying there for a short duration, kind of like how, you know, how her orbs work now, but sticking instead of just, you know, bouncing around and going wherever they want, is something that a lot of people have been talking about. And I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing, at least for Blizzard to try out. Because I think that would put more thought into her gameplay rather than, obviously, like we've talked about, just throwing something and then it just, you know, whatever happens to it happens to it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Sadly, we don't have anybody repping the Moira hard, but it'd be like that sometimes. It'd be like that.
I mean, I personally, I don't mind her orb as it is now, and I feel like I'm probably one of the rare opinions on that. I don't really mind it. It doesn't feel like that horrible, except if you're like in a really unfortunate situation. And because I watched someone like I'll watch people just walk into her orb, like just straight up, they're just walking right into it, and I think, okay, but you could. There's another way you could just go. Like, you don't. And it's, I don't know.
For
You
me,
don't
I
gotta
feel
do it.
like
But you're support and you're supposed to heal them.
I know. And now see, usually that's what you do. You heal.
I agree. I
Sometimes
don't think it's that
sometimes
bad.
they
It's
go
not
where
that
you can't
impressive.
follow.
I feel like more the orb is a good example of a game mechanic. Like a game mechanic doesn't have to be overpowered to be unhealthy, I guess. Because like I personally I've never found orb that oppressive.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
it does under like 200 damage, right, altogether.
Yeah, split.
Like
Yeah,
as healers, it's pretty easy for us to heal at people who get hit by it. But I still just don't really agree with it or like it, even if it doesn't like kill me all the time, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to like old
Fair.
scatter arrow in that sense, where it's like scatter was never like, I mean, it was annoying, but it wasn't like busted. It was just that like you just shot it and you as the Hanzo didn't know what was gonna happen. And I think that in any game, like randomness is always terrible. So like if you're as a Hanzo, you're like, I hope this kills this guy, shucks, and then you shoot it out. And it's the same with the Moira, where you're like, I hope this finds somebody, and then you chuck it out and you don't
can be
know.
really frustrating, for sure, to be on the other end of that.
I remember this one clip from Fariha. She was on Oasis and she like teleports back as Sombra to like her side, and the orb still manages to get her because it just bounced all the way over to the map. And obviously, I think if she had put like a translocator on a health pack, she would have lived, but it's still just a really weird thing to play around, I guess.
Yeah, it's like one of
In
those
those
stupid
situations,
counterplays.
right?
Yeah, it feels like you shouldn't have to counterplay around that. Like maybe the orb will have followed me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of busted mechanics that everyone hates, my turn to represent Brigitte. So, Brigitte, this is a tough one because I think probably out of the most healers in the game, she's probably the most hated. So, I'm probably gonna come up against a lot of delete Brigs. But my argument is that Brig is good for anti-dive. Like she's good, and that's where she should be. Basically, she was pretty much designed with that in mind as a hero who could basically be an answer to supports relentlessly being dove. And this was, I think, she was dropped around the time when dive meta was a thing, and everybody was like, "I'm sick of being a support and getting effed up. I'm sick of just like being burst down." And then everyone was like, "Brigitte, here you go. She'll give you an armor pack, and you'll be fine." Problem is that in the various iterations since, armor has just gotten a bit too strong. AoE healing with Brigitte is a bit too strong. Rally is nuts. And having that stun, even though they reduced the health of her shield, the stun, the flail, it just contributes to an overall kind of annoying character to play with or play against. So I think she needs to be toned back to a place where, I mean, I don't think she's like particularly oppressive in the meta per se. She's mostly just good in dive comps right now, but which is ironic. But I think it's more that she's just unfun. Similar to what we were discussing about Moira Orb, she's unfun to play against. And when heroes are unfun to play against, they make your community like not want to play the game anymore. It doesn't really matter if they're broken. It's just like, well, I don't want to play against this hero. So I think she does need some help.
I don't think she's that bad. Like, I mean, I guess like in my games, like she's strong, but I don't know. Personally, I just like never have a point where I'm like, oh my god, this is so broken. Like I have to flex the Brig a lot, and I mean, I'm just like not that good at her. So it's like Brig used to be really, really easy to the point where you just swing your thing, heal, like your shield was 1,000,000 HP, like it was broken. But like I feel like now, like I'm trying to play her and I die kind of a lot. And I don't know, maybe it's just me being bad at her, but like I just like never have a point where I'm like, oh my god, this Brig is like hard carrying them. Like we got to kill this Brig. Like she can definitely synergize with Reinhardt really well. And I think like a lot of times if they have a Brig with your Ryan and you don't have a Brig, like you can be at a disadvantage. But I just like don't think she's like to the point where it's like, oh my god, she's so broken, personally.
Okay.
I think she's a little strong right now. She's a little she's got some muscles on her. I definitely have had the experience. I'm actually talking like comp experience because I've actually been playing her a lot in comp to learn her. Honestly, I play every support except for Lucio, and Brig has always been like my weakest link. So I've been kind of like grinding her out in comp and learning her. And I will say that a lot of the times in games I've been playing Zen Brig, these past couple weeks, and if I'm getting bullied at all, I whip out the mace, and all I have to do is look at a Genji or look at a Tracer, and they can't do anything to me. And that is so strong, because if you think about it, you're negating one person on the enemy team by existing. Like, what other support does that besides maybe Moira? Like, that is insane. I'm
like, I think that's
looking at a
necessary.
Tracer and stopping her from doing anything. Like, her options are to swap. Her options are to change heroes. Like, that's it. She can't touch my other supports. I'm just gonna be all over her. She can't touch my DPS. The only option she has is to play frontline Tracer, which is wrong, or to swap. So I do think that Brig is a very strong hero. Like, obviously it can kind of feel like you're not doing anything, but by not doing anything, you're still doing more than a lot of supports, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's like good though. I think that's like what the game needed. Like when you have like when Dive was like really, really strong and you had Zen and Anna like just getting absolutely demolished, like especially like, you know, as a Zen player, like I encountered very easily by Doomfist, Tracer, Genji, like whatever. And I think that Brigitte, her concept at least was necessary to, you know, help your backline supports and counter that dive. Because I think if you take away Brigitte, like try to think about what dive counter options you have. You have DPS, you have Reaper, you have McCree, you have things with like a stun, like one single stun, but it's like that might not be enough if they have a Doomfist, a Tracer, a Monkey, a Diva, or a Ball, like things that you need multiple stuns for, like you can't stay alive as these support heroes. So I think there's a lot of times where you're gonna have to switch if you're Tracer and you're getting countered by the Brig, even if she's just looking at you. Suck it up and switch. Like I have to switch all the time when I can't play Zen. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but just like good.
As a support player, I like Brig, right? Because that enables me to play, you know, Ana and be free. And even now in scrims, we're seeing like Bap Brig 2 kind of adaptations. Sometimes teams will run Tracer, so you run Bap Brig, things like that. So I do like Brig. I like Brig being in the game, but that's because I'm greedy and I want to play supports and I want to be aggressive, right?
Same.
I don't want to be bullied by a Genji. I don't want to have to hit, you know, super hard skill shots like Sleep Dart on a Genji to live and have value, right? So yeah, I like Brig, but Brig is broken.
I
Yeah.
think in the
go ahead.
I mean in the same respect though, I think that like, you know, Brig you know, obviously compared to what she was, she's technically in a better place as like playing against her. But I think that she's kind of maybe in a way a necessary evil because as we were talking about a little bit earlier, like they run dive. What are you gonna do if Brig doesn't exist? Like that was why I if I remember correctly, that's like kind of why Brig was introduced so that she could like there was a better counter to dive. And so I think maybe that's kind of a necessary evil to have around, just in that kind of respect.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
guess.
what I would
my
oh, go ahead,
oh,
Cupcake, you
sorry.
go.
My counter argument to that is Brig isn't the only anti-dive hero and support, at least, let me say. So before Brig, your Lucio was in charge of peeling, right? He boop speeds the other support away, and that's how you would play with that. And I think while it's not as effective, it's definitely more skill based, you know? Like you have to hit the boop and you have to have the game sense to like speed your other support away, right? And then
True.
also Moira is an anti-dive hero in the sense that she has a fade and she has her healing orb to keep her alive. She can basically live through like a monkey on her is nothing to Moira. She laughs in the face of a monkey. So
I
I
can vouch
definitely
for that
think
as a monkey player. I can vouch.
I definitely think that Brig isn't the only option against dive. And I mean something else too is if you're playing mirror dive, you can get away with playing Mercy Lucio. And the reason that I say that is one of my old teams used to run this a lot on especially Ilios well. it's called like the no backline comp. Your supports are just all in with you, and then there's nothing for the enemy team to dive because your supports are just in. So there's definitely different like play styles that don't require a bodyguard for one of your supports, you know.
But then I feel like it kind of makes like those heroes like Zenyatta, it almost makes them like so much harder to play, because if you are going to play Zen and say Brig was like nerfed or she doesn't exist or whatever, then they can easily just have like Tracer Doom. They don't even have to go like full dive. Like they can just have like Doomfist and Tracer, and you're going to struggle all game to the point where like, yeah, you could switch off. You could go Moira, you could go Lucio, but like I don't want to have to be forced to switch to those heroes every time.
It's nice just to have options, right?
Exactly. Like
for different situations.
Right. Like, I don't want to have to switch every single time they're running Doomfist or Tracer or Monkey or Genji or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess the counter argument to that is you have to basically play perfect against that, which isn't really a fair thing to say. But I do think that just like how as an Ana player you wouldn't want to swap if there's always a Genji or an Ana, or I'm sorry, if there wasn't always a Genji or a Winston or whatever always on top of you, Tracer players don't want to play against a Brig that's just existing. So it's kind of like that give and take of like, well, what's allowed.
Yeah. I just think that it's like I don't care about DPS having to switch mostly because there's
you
so
could have
many
ended the sentence.
DPS
You could have ended the
like,
sentence earlier.
I could have honestly. I could say I don't care, like switch. But it's like there's so many more DPS heroes for them to pick, as opposed to like there's like like 7 or something supports where it's like, okay, well you can't play Zenyatta, so you can play Brig or Lucio or Moira. Have fun. It's like, well, I don't want to.
There's a comment from someone in chat that I think is pretty good on kind of like Brig as a whole. I'm totally going to butcher their name, so I'm probably not going to say it, but basically they copy pasted something from Megachu from Twitter. I don't know if you guys see that.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, Ixion.
I think that's I think that's
Do you want to just read it out quickly for chat who's not?
Yeah. I'll read it really quickly. So basically it says, I think Brig is just entirely a thinking hero. The only mechanic you need to be good at is whip shot. Everything else is based off positioning, CD usage, game sense. You can't really see good Brig play without watching her point of view and understanding what she needs to do to be productive. And I think that's a good point.
Yeah, so I think there is like a middle ground here. I think that the point about Brig being a necessary evil is a fair one. I think that she definitely, like, it is good to have a hero who does shut down dive comps. I think the problem is though that the game has changed since she was introduced. And I think this is what we're kind of alluding to, is that she was put in when dive was the meta and everybody was like, we need some way for supports to live. And she got put in, and at the time it was like, okay, well, here's a response. Like, you don't have to rely on somebody picking Reaper in your team to help you out. You have a support that you can switch to that will help you out. I think since then though, we have seen supports introduced, well, like Bap, for example, and Moira is also viable, where it's like these supports can kind of look after themselves. I think previously that was a bit of an issue, where supports struggle to look after themselves, whereas now Brig now Bap and Moira can kind of do that, and they can peel for each other. But I think also what I want to add before I think someone was trying to chime in, so apologies. Before so what I want to add to that is that I think the reason the Brig is problematic isn't so much that it's fine that she exists as an anti-dive hero. The problem is that she breaks so many like elements of the game by her existence. Not just what Cupcake is talking about, which is valid as well, about, well, as a Tracer, your existence is nullified, but also the armor itself breaks a lot of the key break points in the game. Like it changes a lot of the dynamics of how, for example, a flanking DPS, well, now an armor packed Tracer is twice as scary if she's like 250 HP, as opposed to a 150 HP Tracer who has to be like much more timid and careful. Similarly with a Genji, like it breaks certain things, and same for like a support. It's like, it's good for supports to have peel, but now like a tank Zenyatta is impossible to dive, and that it shouldn't necessarily be that hardcore, like that clear cut about like, now you can't do anything, now you can do something, like now you can just completely roll this person. I think that there is a middle ground, and I think that's probably where she needs to be worked towards being fair enough that she stops like complete destructions of backlines, but isn't so strong that she just changes a lot of the dynamics. I think, Niandra, you wanted to say something.
I personally believe that Blizzard have always tried to cater towards everyone, both casual players and like pro players in
Mhm.
esports. And I feel like that, especially with support design, that's kind of hurting them at this point. Because you got to keep in mind, at low mid ranks, you aren't going to get peel. Your teammates are less likely to help you. And then you get people on the Blizzard forums who are like support players being like, oh, my team just lets me to die. And, I sympathize with Blizzard a lot here because it's like, what do they do?
Mm.
It's like, I definitely agree that you should cater towards, the top of ladder and stuff, but that does potentially upset some of like the casual fan base because, if Genji attacks them, there's less stuff they can do, for example. And I think that's like a very interesting thought in regards to like Brig, not just Brig actually, just like the design of supports since game launch, I guess. Because Moira and Brig are like so much more self-sustainable than Mercy, for example.
Mm. Yeah, I kind of wanted to touch on that later as well. So maybe we'll quickly come back to that, Niandra. Hold that thought. I want to also, because we're running on a little bit, I want to get to Cupcake now and talking about BAP because we've kind of alluded to BAP a lot, but yeah, BAP broken or fine?
I think Bap is very strong right now. He's part of the meta in pro play, and like I said, I've been the advocate here for pro play and balancing around pro play, and I'm okay with that. You can disagree with me if you want, but yeah, Bap is super strong. His damage is really really strong. His heals are really really strong. I think he's a little bit overtuned. I definitely think he could be toned down a little bit. Maybe his damage at least a little bit. He is like a support character that is doing more than a soldier if you more damage than a soldier if you have the mechanics for it, and that's a little bit scary to be thinking about. His right click, obviously his heal is an AoE burst heal, which is super strong. And I know we've kind of talked about like the healing creep of like new healers being added to the game and almost all of them having AoE heals. That's super super strong. And then yeah, I definitely think he's overtuned a little bit. I definitely think there are some tweaks they could make to him. Um I don't think Immo is as broken as it was on release. I think Immortality is in a good spot right now. It's on a really long cooldown. It takes skill to use to get a lot of value out of it. You have to like put it on a corner and make sure that your team can use it properly. I think that's good, but I definitely think like overall his damage is super super high for a support character.
Mm.
A main support character at that.
Any thoughts on the other panelists?
No, I think Bap's good.
Yeah.
Like Bap.
Yeah. I think he's okay. I think he's balanced. I mean, yeah, no, that's it. I think he's balanced.
Skiesti?
Oh, I mean, I agree with what Cupcake said. Like, I don't know a lot more to add to that. That pretty much sums it up. Like,
Fair. I think overtune is definitely the word. I think he definitely needs some peelbacks. I've already kind of expressed my dissatisfaction with the fact that a lot of new heroes can kind of do what old heroes did, but
Right.
more of it. And I do think that like there should be more of a punish for having. It's funny because on the one hand, having a defensive ultimate is so important when you're at least defending, and so it should be nice to have variety. But at the same time, immortality field does seal. I mean, I agree that it's not that much more that as busted as it once was. I still feel like I still sometimes have problems with it because I still think it is another one of those abilities that kind of breaks a lot of the laws of the game. But I think yeah, I don't think he's like particularly oppressive. I think he just slight nerfs and he could probably be a lot more fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. Something I want to talk about is what you brought up at the very beginning with Lucio. So kind of like the antithesis of Lucio is Baptiste. Lucio encourages fast play, usually encourages Rhine and like a secondary tank like Zarya or Diva. While Bap does basically the opposite. He encourages corner play because of his immortality. That's how you get max value out of it. And he encourages more double shield and group up to get like his AoE healing. So I just kind of wanted to get everybody's thoughts on, is Bap healthy for the game. In the same way that people will argue that Lucio kind of promotes like that faster game style and promotes heroes more like Ryan and I don't know, McCree or something. Baptiste does the opposite and promotes heroes more like Mei and Orisa and Sigma and such. So I want to get your guys' opinions on that.
I'll let the others go first.
Yeah, I don't like love what he stands for. Like I remember when like he was first released and it was really popular to play like bunker comps with like Mei and Bastion and like Reaper, whatever, stuff like that. I hated that, but I think it is a strat, and I think even if I do hate it, it is a strat. So I think he is healthy for the game, because if you are playing a comp like that, I think it's equivalent to playing a comp like Ryan, Zarya, and Lucio. I think it's just a strat, and I think it's okay, even if I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think I just like variety, really. You know, someone in chat said, map specific picks are kind of cool.
Mhm.
You know, like Dive on Gibraltar, Rhine Zarya, King's Row, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would have to say I like that too. I like that different maps have different, styles that are generally played with them. The thing is like what was I gonna say? Yeah, the thing is double shield is so strong that even in places where brawl is usually run, double shield comes out and makes it stand. So and a lot of people would argue that the heroes that are played in brawl are more fun than the heroes that are played in double shield. So what do you guys think about that? Maybe.
Okay, well, I will jump in then. I do think there's an argument to be made for fun comps being balanced in a way to be more strong than boring comps. I think obviously the ideal outcome is that maps and situations define what you pick, but I think that if push comes to shove, the most engaging and dynamic, or basically the way you want the game to most be played, should be the strongest way the game is played as well. Double shield kind of breaks that a little bit, and I think the game was I think actually speaking on the general meta is pretty good right now. I think it's not in like a bad state or anything, so I'm not complaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like bunker comps were much better as a niche comp. It was like I'm okay with the occasional pirate ship. I'm okay with the occasional like Bastion bunker or whatever, I will pull the horse out if it's needed occasionally. I'm mad when I'm forced to horse all the time.
Right.
And I'm mad when I'm forced to play a hero who's very undynamic and unengaging, because it's like 90% of the time the best pick. And I think that's like a potential problem. I don't think it's BAP necessarily. I think like the shielding is more what encourages that. I think like BAP is just complements. I think people would still play bunker without BAP, I think, even if he wasn't around. So I do think that there should be a heavier preference to that. I will save going on a larger rant about how Overwatch needs bans or some sort of banning system that would actually make that more viable, rather than I don't think it's something balance can always achieve, because as I kind of alluded to earlier, pros will always exploit like the most minor tuning of any hero to pick that comp all the time. It's only when you mix in bans and denying them certain heroes that you can actually see them switch around. Mm-hmm. So I think if we do want a game which is more like map dependent and specific, then it makes more sense to take certain heroes out the pool all the time, so that you have to adapt to what you have, as opposed to the benefit of just running the same thing all the time because you understand how it works and it's just generally pretty good, so you may as well run it. But yeah, that's my angry old man. Any thoughts on that issue before we kind of move on?
I mean, we touched upon general AoE healing increasing since game release, and I'd say Baptiste's like AoE healing is more healthy than Moira's, because it's like 50 healing per nade or something, right? I think is like the maths on it.
The chat will help us, I'm sure.
I don't particularly know. I just play the game. I just play Anna. I don't know.
Well,
I just shoot the orbs. I don't ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I just click the head.
Well, Anna's healing is single target in 70, and I think it's good for like AoE healing to be less than single target. But then you've got like Moira, who kind of, I don't know what Moira's is at the moment either, but like I know it's like really high, like roughly the same as Anna's or even higher, despite being AoE versus
I think it's
single shot
60
and stuff.
off the top of my head.
Oh, shit, I thought it was a bit higher than that.
I think it's 60 AoE.
65.
They're
people
saying
are talking about.
65, so I'm wrong, but you know.
65. So only 5 less than Anna, despite a 15-meter radius and AoE and like last aim and stuff.
And I think actually the resource is not punishing enough. I know that a lot of people struggle with the resource management, but I
Spam
actually
right
don't
click.
think it's that. I don't think it's that hard to make. Because the thing is, it's all broken by the fact that coalescence is also a part of it. You generally build an ult by the time you run out of resource. If you're not completely spamming and wasting it, I think,
Yeah.
is the issue. So it's never actually that difficult to manage. Always putting out healing is Moira, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, to your point, I do think that there's a potential issue with AoE healing being over prioritized. I mean, what would you kind of like to see that changed, Niandra?
I mean, I don't know. I guess I've said before, like, I don't really know what you should do with Moira. Like, I'm like maybe utility or something. But Bap, I think, is like generally okay because, as we said, you know, his AoE healing is 50, while Anna's is higher. And I definitely feel like it makes sense for single target healing to just overall be higher than AoE healing. You know,
Yeah.
just by the way you look at it.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe this is where Shiro gets the chance to say that Zen Orb needs a slight little buff.
Exactly.
You know, I was kind of like against that in the beginning when you first brought it up, but I've been mulling it over. A 5 HPS, I would kind of dig that. I like that. I kind of vibe with that.
I just think he's like, I don't need him to be like a super strong healer because I know his place is with damage, and I know that that's like his main thing, and that's why, you know, you compromise your mobility for damage and stuff like that. But it's just like his healing is so low that I throw a harmony on a tank and I watch it literally do nothing. Like I see my tank taking, like Fran tweeted something a couple days ago and it was like me like watching my tank like take 1 billion damage per second as like she throws a harmony on them and it just does literally nothing. So it just feels absolutely useless. So it's like, just give me like 5 more healing per second, like just something.
Yeah, I like that.
Somebody told me one time, like in my chat, that the idea of having like 2 harmony orbs that you could put on someone, that or either like have it get like it heals more as it stays on the same target for a longer time. So it's like if I throw it on Orisa, and not to say like if she's full HP then it'll heal like the maximum, but like if I throw it on like an Orisa or Reinhardt or something and they're like low HP, the longer I keep it on them, like slightly the healing will go up or something like that, or 2 harmony orbs, just something.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of you know, talent to that too, of keeping, like, if you want to pocket like an Echo that's flying around, you know, in the enemy team's backline or something, there's a little bit of a challenge of like, okay, how can I get the most amount of healing while not endangering myself but staying in LOS and keeping it on and things like that. So that's interesting. There's definitely some things that I definitely think could be changed there. The idea of having 2 harmony orbs is kind of cool, but then I also think kind of to Brig and how she has 3 armor packs and how broken that is, and how you basically permanently have an armor pack ready to use. And I think that something that we didn't really talk about was maybe nerfing Brig's armor packs to, instead of 3, to 2, because Brig's playstyle right now is very like I said, meta right now is kind of like Echo Ashe, and generally what you do is you want to like, or when Brig is played, it's like Echo Tracer. So generally what you do is you pack your Trace and you pack your Echo, and then you save one for your other support, whatever it may be. So it's just kind of interesting, like maybe having 2, maybe she has to be like, okay, well, I know my Tracer is going to be in more danger and I still know that they're going to dive me, so I need to save one or something like that. And I think it requires a little bit more thought than just I'm going to throw armor packs around and still have one.
Yeah, true. I agree with that. And the fact that like the cooldown, I feel like on the armor packs is not that like much, I guess. And I feel like, you know, Zen obviously has no cooldowns on his orbs, but with the low healing that they do, not to mention them not being armor, like Brigitte is like them being armor, I think that's really strong, especially if you put 2 armor packs like on an Echo or something like that, then that's really, really strong. But since Zen's healing, it doesn't do very much. I think 2 Harmony Orbs is like appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So I liked, you know, I think Niandra mentioned in the experimental card a while back, they did that change with Zarya where she had bubbles for everybody. And I think that was an interesting way of turning Zarya into like more of a more larger tank. Like she's kind of more DPS and tank really. She's really a tank for Reinhardt and kind of maybe a little bit of peel. But mostly she's damage. I think Zen could have that same kind of effect where you maybe tone down how much each orb does, but you give him like 2 orbs, so now he can heal more people at a time. And I also think, just generally speaking, I think dynamism is more what I'd like to see from heroes in general. Is like, okay, if their output isn't great right now, don't just up their number, give them like a mechanic that lets them output more than the next Lucio player. Like, so for example, when we were chatting in Discord before, I was pondering the idea with Lucio, if you need to increase his healing, maybe there's a charge mechanic that comes from how long he's wall riding or something, or like his amp, for example. Let's say rather than just doing a flat boost from X to X, maybe it's like in the last 5 seconds, if you were wall riding a certain amount, then your amp does more than another person's amp, right? So then there's the reward for like being more dynamic with your play rather than push button always has the same effect, you know, across thousands of players. So,
I like that idea because it also rewards Lucio players for like wall riding. Because I know as someone who doesn't really play Lucio, I suck at wall riding. So I think that it would be definitely good for like a better Lucio to be able to get more value. And I don't know if this is a thing. I've heard it talked about, but like if you use beat from like a higher place, like do you get more shields? Is that a thing that ever went through?
I heard about that. I didn't investigate it.
I don't know.
I think that was someone like making a
custom mode, right?
Yeah,
that's what it was. Someone made a custom mode, and then they jumped off Lijiang Tower. I think that was what it was.
Yeah. But that idea in itself is super interesting.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I'm not against it, honestly.
Watch every Lucio die mid-beat, trying to get the highest beat possible.
The world is just full of Ajaxes. Oh no!
All Lucios from now on. But I mean, generally, I think I would like to see that kind of element, you know, added more, where you rather just, you know, and actually, this is another one that applies a lot to Mercy, because this is something that people talk about a lot more, where detractors, you know, feel that she's too low skill ceiling, and people who want her buff, you know, well, maybe a more dynamic, what's the word? Concept, more dynamic part to her kit would be cool.
I think for Mercy specifically, she's very much one of those like easy to pick up, hard to master kind of heroes because like her kit doesn't take a lot to understand, but executing it in a proper way does take skill and knowledge, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, like it's really difficult to get value out of Mercy in like Master GM compared to other healers. So again, it shouldn't necessarily be that, like, if in an ideal world, and I guess maybe we can't reach this ideal world, maybe it's similar to what I was saying with Moira, where it's like maybe Moira will always only output this much, and that's fine. But in an ideal world, you know, there would be ways for Mercy players to extract that extra bit of value without having to, like, you know, super jump, and which is essentially a bug in the game.
You have to play pretty much perfectly if you're playing, like, you know, higher level Mercy gameplay. Like, if you make a mistake, your team is going to suffer a lot from it.
Yeah, exactly. And like minimizing every half a second of damage boost is like the only resource you have, or resort you have.
Yeah, you really have to maximize what you do as Mercy to get her full value and to compensate for not like playing a different hero instead.
There's like a lot of little skills with it.
Exactly. There are the little things.
Like learning to damage boost injured allies over healing them. Because you get like a lot of low and mid-rank Mercies who say they don't get to use damage boost because their allies are taking so much damage, but they don't realize that they should be looking for opportunities to let their other support take the wheel and, you know, just min-max damage boost and stuff like that.
Absolutely fair. Okay, so we've kind of gone through all the supports, and we've, I think, had a pretty healthy and raucous debate at times, and at other times we were very much on the same page, so I think that's very good. Let's have any concluding thoughts then on just general how you feel the supports are in the moment, maybe a word on your particular support or who you'd like to see the most changed, And then, yeah, going forwards, what kind of stuff you want to see Blizzard do with supports, whether that's add a certain type of support or change supports in a certain type of way. What would you like to see done? I guess let's start with Skiesti, then we'll go anti-clockwise. No, clockwise, that's the one.
Okay, so for me, I think just it kind of ties back. I'll talk specifically about Mercy. It just ties back to the whole. I really think that she needs a better identity as a support herself. I wouldn't want to see her be a main healer. It'd be interesting to do something like some kind of off healer idea, like Niandra was talking about earlier. That I thought was interesting. That kind of idea of like upping her healing in Valkyrie or something like that, and just like trying that out and seeing how it goes. But I definitely I don't like the idea of her as a main healer, and I don't mind her playstyle right now, but it's definitely not ideal for situations like Shiro, sorry, mentioned earlier. And I don't know, sports in general, I think some of them are in a pretty good state, but it definitely it could be better, as we've talked about today.
Okay. Niandra?
I mean, like Skiesti said, I think, decide what Mercy's identity is, main healer, off healer, push her in one direction, even if it means nerfing her healing further to, make her a proper off healer. Besides that, I think for Moira, just please tighten her beam, please make it more like Zarya or Symmetra. Stop letting me kill Mercies that are, moving around at the speed of light.
It pains you to kill the Mercy like
It
that.
really does. The other thing for me is maybe just consider reworking some DPS into tanks and supports just to help the numbers out. We've heard that there's going to be no new heroes until Overwatch 2, but, tanks and supports are still quite lacking. I think maybe giving like a Symmetra a rework into a healer could kind of help, just to even the numbers out a little bit.
Not
And
again.
apart from that, just pray that Overwatch 2 is good. Considering we're kind of like suffering for the future, I guess. It's definitely like a lot rolling with it. So yeah, kind of like that basically.
Yeah. Cupcake?
I definitely think that Overwatch should go in the direction of more skill based. I think if you're going to have any sort of like auto aim ability, it should be like low reward. So Mercy healing, Zen Orb, Brig armor pack, things like that. It should be like, if you don't really have to aim it, it should be kind of like low skill, low reward. And I do think there are some changes that could be tweaked, like Brig's armor pack amount, like yeah, Moira's healing, you don't really have to aim, and it's AoE and fuck ton things like that can be tweaked. But honestly, like, I do think that the direction of Baptiste, Anna, and Zen is the right direction. And I'm biased because I love those heroes with my entire heart, but I do think being able to do damage and help your team in other ways like that is the correct way for Blizzard to go and to continue going.
Yeah. Shiro?
I kind of agree with what Cupcake said when she referred to high skill, high reward. That's like something that I think that Blizzard has never done a good job on when it comes to support heroes, or even honestly DPS heroes in general in Overwatch. And I would love to see like not only Zenyatta and Anna and even DPS heroes like Genji. Like I want to see those heroes being better and those heroes being more effective, as opposed to like, because they're hard, I feel like they don't get much value. Like Zen being like almost a throw pick outside of like the pro scene and really, really high rank ladder. It kind of breaks my heart because I've put so many hours into practicing him and perfecting certain parts of his kit to like be able to swap to Moira and do so much more and win the game just because, she's easy when I have like 20 hours on her. It kind of breaks my heart. So, I would just love to see Zen just be better, and not just Zen, but Anna, Genji, Tracer, heroes that are just high skill. I think they deserve more higher rewards, and I'd love to see heroes like Moira, Brig, whatever, like just getting less value out of them, but they're easier to play.
Yeah, I think all the points made have been very fair. I think I echo most of what you guys said. I think Blizzard are doing a decent job. I mean, there's times when I've been very dissatisfied with Blizzard, and I've made it known, particularly on this podcast. I think right now we're in an okay state. I think it's been worse. It could be better, but it could always be better. And I'm sure we'll be here to complain about it when that's the case.
I mean,
I think
it's definitely been worse.
exactly. Yeah, it's definitely been worse. We are a little bit in limbo, waiting for Overwatch 2. So I'm not being as harsh as I could be, because I know Blizzard are kind of counting on that. But the flip side is that Overwatch 2 has to deliver, because I think it's really the fate. I can't really. It sounds a bit hyperbolic, but I think if Overwatch 2 doesn't deliver, we're kind of fucked, and maybe Overwatch is fucked too.
Yeah.
And I think
So, like,
that in.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah.
No, I just wanted to agree that, obviously we've had less balanced patches because of Overwatch 2, so, like, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And I think going forward, and I think this is really for Overwatch 2, I don't think they're going to make radical changes until Overwatch 2. I think this is what they're doing right now. I think is probably just kind of tweaking things to keep us happy until Overwatch 2 drops. So with that in mind, I would like, when Overwatch 2 drops, for them to drop more support heroes, more tanks, as well as kind of Niandra, I think, alluded to that. We need to address the balance. I think there needs to be more variety for support and tank players to pick. I think I would like more dynamic elements to healers, particularly whether that's current healers or new healers. I would like abilities like cleanse. I'd like new abilities. I'd like overlapping abilities. I think there's a lot of cool MOBA concepts that haven't been put into Overwatch yet, and I think healers or supports, because that's what they are. Supports, I think, are the most open category for something like that, because utility is something that MOBAs have a lot of. Like certain abilities that are like only like an aura that reduces damage, or an aura that does damage back, or like a certain ability that's shot in a certain place and it gives people in that area X damage boost, or whatever it is, right? More things that are based on utility and unique concepts I'd like to see, but at the same time I'd like to see overlap, so that we don't have to have only one hero to rely on for a certain job. But yeah, I think tune the ones that are overtuned, reward the high skill, as we kind of talked about, and it's okay for some heroes to not be meta. I'm looking at you, Moira. And I think, other than that, this has been very fruitful, very fun. I think chat has enjoyed it. I've had a blast. It's always good to get like such a nice, thoughtful conversation on Overwatch, and couldn't have thought of some better company to do it with. So thank you very much, guys, for joining me. It's been a pleasure. And let's see what Blizzard does, I guess.
Yep. We'll see.
Thanks for
thanks
we'll
for
see.
having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Maybe if there's some big support drops or support changes, we'll reconvene and see what we think.
Yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Of course.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for joining, guys. Once again, drop each of these supports names in chat with an exclamation mark before it. You will get a link to their socials. Check them out. Make sure you follow every single one of them. Subscribe. Do all the shit. Press all the buttons. Check them all out. They're all awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. You had no incentive to do it, and you did. So I'm very grateful. I think chat is grateful, and hopefully Overwatch community, whatever part of it that listens to this, will be grateful. So thank you for your time. I'll let you guys go. To the rest of chat, I think we'll quickly raid someone. I think we'll raid, speaking of supports, we'll raid SK as a little hello to the supports. So go say hello to SK. Tell him hi from the group up call. Tell him hi from all of us. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I will catch you Wednesday on stream, but from us here, that is all. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.